What's going on, Consciouztv, your favorite breakdown commentator? Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. You already know what we're here to get into. You know what? Damn it, I should have put part 2 in this title. Let me see if I can put part 2 in this title. I ain't got enough characters. Let me see. Part. Let me see if I can change my title real quick. Part 2. Alright. Hold on, y'all. Y'all keep coming up. We need all the likes. For some reason, people are not getting their notifications. I do not know why. But you know, YouTube shenanigans, child. Okay. All right, what's going on, you guys? It is a lot going on in the world, guys. We need thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. I went live earlier. Conscious crew members were saying that they didn't even get notifications, etc. I can tell that my notifications are not going out. I'm not really sure. YouTube just be on a lot of weird stuff. So please thumbs up the video. We need all of that, whether you are part of the Replay Gang, whether you're active with me in the streets in real time, or whether you are a Bush baby. Please run me those likes. We need all the likes, all the engagement. Also, if you are enjoying all of the work of the King, please donate to the platform, $Consciouztv, and or paypal.me/ConsciouzTV, conscious spelled with the Z on the end, just how it is here on the platform. Also, make sure that you guys have your notification bell set to all, and even when you don't get notified, always check the platform manually, because you never know when the King is in fact King. And last but not least, please share the stream out to whatever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you in fact lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're live, and we are certainly in color. With no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey everybody, I don't know why notifications are not going out, you guys. I got a lot of comments from the Conscious crew that not only were notifications not going out and they had no idea that we were live, but also to my boo in the chat, Amanda's point, she couldn't even comment in the last live stream. So there's something going on with YouTube. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. YouTube is always always, okay? I don't know whether they got a glitch in the system, child. It's just the system be crazy as hell. So please run those likes up. I can tell that my notifications are not going out. I haven't even been online in a few days. So you know, it's a slow build for no reason. So please run the likes all the way up. Let me speak to you guys as you guys are coming into the sanctuary. And if you can hear me, give me a 1 in the chat, please. What's going on, Star? Hey, Lady D. What's going on? Easy Breezy. Hey, Sherry. What's going on? See through you. Hey, boo. Hey, Amanda. What's going on, Sin? Hey, Rumors in T. What's going on, Lauren? Hey, boo. What's going on, Marky's mom? Hey, love. Hey, Chef. What's going on, everybody? All right, so let's get into it. So you guys know I did a part 1 earlier today regarding this scathing, explosive lawsuit brought on against CEO and businesswoman Desiree Perez, who is the CEO of JayZ's very own Roc Nation. Her daughter, Demoree Hadley, filed an explosive lawsuit against her mother, claiming that Desiree had her falsely and illegally institutionalized, aka put away in a psych ward without as much as a permission slip or any logical reason. Okay, while she was in that psych ward for 2 weeks, she passed a drug test where she had not been on drugs, despite Desiree or the doctors that she claims Desiree hired to falsify records to authorize this illegal transference. Claimed that she had threatened to overdose the night before, etc. Girl. She also exposed her mother's past convictions as a convicted felon. Desiree Perez apparently has a rags to riches story. She was indicted on conspiracy to drug traffic and apparently had her sentence resolved by way of acting as an informant on behalf of the feds. And from there, her daughter claims in a lawsuit that she continued to indulge in criminality and pretty much handed her over to be raised by her grandparents, and that her relationship to her mother has been contentious to the point that, once again, it resulted in her mother weaponizing her power, her wealth, against her in an attempt to break her away from her husband, Javon, who is a black man. She's in an interracial relationship. Demoree claims that her mother has had her husband falsely arrested, that she has put false claims of domestic violence and abuse on him. She's referred to him as an igger. And she's pretty much suing the shit out of everybody that she believes has been in cahoots and had their hands into either falsifying crimes against her husband and or illegally putting her away in a psych ward for 2 weeks. She's suing Roc Nation because 2 of the Roc Nation employees apparently also were in cahoots. She's also claiming that her mother used Roc Nation resources and did some of this colluding through Roc Nation emails. She's suing the doctors, the psychiatrists. She's suing police. Baby, she is suing down to the ground and still got John Doe's. You know, I think a John Doe 1 through 4 or 1 through 10, baby. So Demoree Hadley is going for the gusto, girl, and she wants a trial by jury. Now, her mother, CEO of Roc Nation, Desiree Perez, also has responded to the lawsuit. They've actually been in litigation, and she has had a amended motion to dismiss her daughter's lawsuits and claims against her. We also have Desiree Perez's own lawsuit from last year, which she filed against Demoree's husband, Javon, which we're going to get into. Also, Desiree has seemingly put out evidence to support that her daughter was in a toxic relationship, that her daughter was experiencing domestic abuse of all kinds, verbally, mentally, physically. We showed those receipts in our last live. We will be showing those receipts again in today's live. And she's pretty much calling this thing bullshit and claiming that she had real concern for her daughter's safety, her mental competency. As far as Desiree is concerned, it was given Stockholm syndrome. And, you know, she did what she thought what was in the best interest of her daughter, who has been displaying manic, psychotic episodes and disillusionment, advocating for her own abuser, protecting her own abuser, while simultaneously trying to get her mother to intervene in the toxicity of the relationship. And when she did that, now she's being labeled as a bad mother, and she's being accused of RICO, etc. And as I said in my last live, This is a very convoluted situation, you guys, based upon everything that we saw. And we're going to go over those things before we get into the meat and the potatoes of what we have here today. To me, it seems like three things are true at once in this whole situation. Based upon the evidence and based upon Demoree's own inadvertent admission of abuse, that her mother's claims actually do have merit. That there has been abuse, her daughter has been abused on various occasions, and Demoree inadvertently acknowledges those instances and those events in her own lawsuit against her mother, but she claims that those instances were illegally obtained, and that the recordings and footages and different things that are now going viral that are showing Demoree being abused were all legally obtained from her mother having secret cameras and everything in her bedroom, and illegally recording her and illegally accessing her iCloud, etc. So, despite what Demoree said this morning on her Instagram, which we're going to get into, she's doing her fair share of lying and trying to create smoke and mirrors in the situation as well. As you guys see here, this is a screenshot from her Instagram stories. She says, "Thank you to everyone supporting and seeing the abusive tactics that Desiree, Roc Nation, and all their puppets on social media are doing to send fake evidence, altered photos, AI videos through fake pages to all my followers, friends. I will not, and repeat, will not be silent." So these are not deep fake AI videos. These are not doctored up images, etc., because she, in her own lawsuit, acknowledges these things. But her issue is that those things were illegally obtained, not that they're per se fake and false, not per se that, you know, they're manufactured by her mother, but that these things were, once again, illegally retained secret recordings, her mother breaking into her phone, etc., having cameras and shit in the room that her and her husband dwelled in during their time staying with Demoree's grandparents. So there's that. Now, the other two things that can be true. Demoree does seemingly and has been in a abusive relationship, but to Demoree's points, her mother also has gone too far. According to a lot of the receipts she put in her lawsuit, it seems as though the mother may have been overzealous and taken some very unconventional and unapologetic means to rescue her daughter from what she believed is a abusive relationship. She also put a text thread in her lawsuit between her and Demoree, where Demoree definitely is giving Pygmisha energy, digmatized energy, seemingly is, you know, under duress regarding a issue she's having with her husband wanting to leave, and she's fearing, you know, him leaving her and going to his mother, and she's begging her mother, Desiree, to intervene to help her to keep him from leaving the house. She can't do without him. She threatens to unalive herself as her mother is attempting to focus more so on her than Demoree is, you know, focusing on the husband. And Desiree is claiming that this is why she believed that her daughter needed to be psychologically evaluated, etc. But apparently there was a lot of unethical behavior regarding the psychiatrist, people posing as representatives for Nike that were actually therapists who were secretly evaluating Demoree during her time working for this company called Iconic, which she also believes that her mother intentionally had them hire her, because that was an attempt to also break up her marriage by having the company give her a raise upon hiring her, and then giving her a heavy workload that called for her to travel, etc. All these things were meant to drive a wedge between her and her husband. But nonetheless, it seems that Desiree definitely got carried away in power and did things she should not have done. And like I said in my last live, there is a such thing as going about the right thing the wrong way. You can have the right intention and a completely reckless methodology, or a completely reckless application of the right thing. So the mother, while her feelings and concern for her daughter may have been sound, they may have been understandable from a person who loves another person deeply, obviously a mother to her daughter, a parental love is, typically the love of all loves, the closest thing to the love of God. But once again, use her feelings to justify going over and beyond to the point that now she's being, held accountable for what could be both a civil and criminal case. There definitely could be some state charges or federal charges that could evolve up out of this if things happen in the way that Demoree claims that they happen, and if things are what Demoree claims that they are in her lawsuit. And the third thing that can be true is that Demoree's husband, technically, he was falsely arrested, etc. Police, the DA, they wrote out an affidavit chronicling things. They said things such as, the evidence that Perez had brought to them on behalf of the daughter as it relates to concerns about violence in DV. Some of it was questionable. Now we know what they meant by questionable due to Demoree's lawsuit, because Demoree basically had told the DA that the things that her mother had given to them in order to seek charges and a arrest of her husband were illegally obtained, that her mother was the one who was actually victimizing her, was invading her privacy, etc. So the DA had to deal with that. They also stated that Demoree was also non-cooperative, and of course she would be, because she is standing by her man. So, someone else can't press charges on behalf of someone else. The person who is being alleged to be the victim has to be the one to pretty much follow through with things. And because Demoree was not willing to do that, the DA had to drop the charges, despite the evidence that they had in their custody. So Javon walked. So two things can be true. Yes, her husband was technically falsely arrested. That's what they're calling it. But at the same time, there is evidence of abuse. And this is seemingly one of those instances in which the victim is not ready to hold their victimizer accountable. So there's nothing that the criminal justice system can do. And there's nothing that even the most protective parent can do in a situation that they're watching their child in. So it's a very, very, very convoluted situation. All right. So let's get into let me open you guys up a little bit more. Let you guys hear some of this stuff for yourself. It's a lot going on, you guys. Matter of fact, hold on. I need to pull up this other Twitter page. You guys, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. We need all the notifications to go out, child. All the notifications to go out. All right. Let's start off with Demoree doing an interview with NBC News, for those of you who didn't get a chance to see it earlier. And then we're going to get into the abuse evidence. And then we're going to get into Desiree's response to the lawsuit to get it dismissed, as well as her own personal lawsuit that she filed against Javon, Demoree's husband, last year. I believe that lawsuit was also tossed or dismissed, or maybe it's still pending. I don't know, but we'll see. All right, here is Demoree speaking out following her lawsuit against her mother, the CEO of Roc Nation. My God, today.
Is taking legal action after she says she spent nearly 2 weeks in mental health institutions for no legitimate reason.
She claims in a recently filed lawsuit that it was all orchestrated by her own mother and others who should have protected her failed her.
NBC6 investigative reporter Amy Viteri has her story.
So legally, I can go home.
No, you cannot.
Why?
Because you're being Baker active.
Body camera video shows the moments Broward deputies encouraged Demoree Hadley to get into this pickup truck with people she says she didn't know.
I can't ride with you and you guys take me?
You're going to be in handcuffs, so dog's not going to be able to come?
I don't want to be in handcuffs.
Okay.
Demoree says they took her to a hospital for a mental health evaluation after this doctor signed paperwork saying she was a risk to herself.
What he told me was, we received a call from your family that you tried to OD the night before.
A doctor she says she'd never met before. And according to Demoree, it's her own mother who's behind it. In this lawsuit, she claims her mother, Desiree Perez, used unlawful means to have Demoree falsely detained under Florida's Baker Act and Marchman Act.
So she's the CEO of Roc Nation, a company that she owns along with Sean Carter, the famous rapper JayZ.
The complaint alleges a conspiracy, saying Perez used her money, power, and influence to tear apart Demoree and her husband, Javon Hadley, and created an enterprise of individuals to effectuate her plot.
To essentially try to separate me from my husband and to falsely accuse him of domestic violence.
Perez has repeatedly denied these allegations in court filings. A month before Demoree filed her complaint, we found her mother filed her own lawsuit against Demoree's husband, Javon. Citing evidence, Perez says he has abused her daughter for years, something the couple has denied in court records. In that lawsuit, Desiree Perez says she moved to Baker Act her daughter, fearing she was at risk of suicide and abusing prescription drugs.
I haven't seen anything in my entire 20 years of practicing law that it is so clear that someone did something wrong.
Attorney Hilton Napoleon is representing Demoree in the lawsuit, which claims Perez harassed the couple for years, including making unfounded claims to get Javon arrested on multiple occasions for battery and domestic violence, charges prosecutors did not pursue.
The state attorney's office wrote a 11-page scathing closeout memoranda, which basically said that her mother made false allegations to the police.
In this closeout memo, a prosecutor with the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office cites Demoree's lack of cooperation and raises concerns about some of the evidence and how it was obtained. The prosecutor also wrote Demoree was wrongfully Baker Acted last year, something her mother's attorney disputes in this letter, challenging many of the memo's other conclusions.
I have 3 different collateral sources of information that say that she's been acting psychotic, that she threatened to overdose yesterday.
Demoree's lawsuit alleges her mother conspired with prominent psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober, seen here in body camera video, and others to have Demoree committed for a mental health evaluation. Bober cites supporting evidence from her family and diagnosed Demoree with an unspecified psychosis. He ordered she be taken to Memorial Regional Hospital, where he is chief of psychiatry, and where results from drug tests taken upon admission were negative, according to records Demoree shared with us.
They told me your tox screens came out negative, and I go, I know. I don't do drugs.
In a statement, Dr. Bober's attorney said Demoree was placed under the Baker Act for 38 hours due to the potential risk of imminent harm she posed to herself, adding failing to take appropriate action would have been a breach of Dr. Bober's ethical and professional obligations. While Demoree was at Memorial, her mother further petitioned to have her transported to a different facility under Florida's Marchman Act, claiming again in court records that Demoree suffered from severe drug abuse. A judge granted that petition.
They ran the test. They knew that she had no drugs in her system and she was not abusing drugs. And the fact that you can't do anything about it is scary.
Demoree was sent to this treatment center in Deerfield Beach, where Dr. Bober serves as medical director.
Where are the people that are supposed to protect me from this happening?
According to her lawsuit, Demoree requested a hair follicle test at that facility called Life Skills, which detects drug use for at least the past 3 months, and which showed no drugs had been in Demoree. Demoree was held at Life Skills until April 8th. She shared discharge paperwork that lists a diagnosis of persistent depressive disorder, which she disputes. No medication was prescribed. Court records show Demoree was able to leave that day after her mother voluntarily dismissed the case. But Demoree says the damage has been done, and she feels a system designed to keep people safe failed to protect her.
Money, influence, and power should not be something that's used, right, or abused to hurt innocent people.
Perez has filed a motion to dismiss Demoree's complaint, asserting that the Baker Act and other legal proceedings she has undertaken were rooted in legitimate concern for her daughter's safety.
The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office tells us they stand by their memo. Memorial Healthcare says they can't speak about Demoree's case because of the pending lawsuit. We also contacted Life Skills South Florida and have not yet heard back. BSO told us the incident involving Demoree is now internally under review. Amy Viteri, NBC6 News.
Okay, now here is some of the evidence that is now going viral of the abuse that Desiree Perez claims that her daughter has been experiencing at the hands of her husband. What you're about to listen to is a 4-minute audio clip where Demoree seemingly seems to be verbally and mentally chastised and abused by her husband, Javon.
Especially because I know I've been sick. I'm asking you again. You think it's okay to wake up at 9 o'clock and call somebody at 9:30 for a fucking business call? You think that's okay? Look in my eyes and tell me that's okay.
Yeah, 30 minutes prior, yeah.
You want to wake up at 9 o'clock and make a business call at 9:30?
Yes, I wouldn't do anything else. I would just literally go outside, take me out, and get back home.
Change my confidence to 5%. I'll pay you what I want to pay you, because you gonna be a 5% Demoree. Especially because I know I've been sick. I'm asking you again. You think it's okay to wake up at 9 o'clock and call somebody at 9:30 for a fucking business call? You think that's okay? Everything. Fuck it. Oh, my mama. You know your mama thinks you the dumbest motherfucker ever? No, look me in my eye. Look me when I'm talking to you. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye when I'm talking to you. I know. I'm talking.
So at this point, it seems as though Demoree's grandparents have walked in. They've been listening to the arguing, the yelling of the voice, etc. They've come in. Demoree is being asked to look in his face. I don't know if at this point Javon, has kind of like grabbed her by the jaw and pointed her face to him to make her look him in the eyes, or what's taking place. But whatever's taking place has now called seemingly the grandparents, who they've been living with at this point for a while, to rush in, etc. In Demoree's lawsuit, she claims that, I guess, these would be the secretly recorded audios from her mother having the room laced with recording devices, etc.
I'm talking.
So I think I'm hearing him saying, ain't nobody touch her, ain't nobody touch her, ain't nobody touch her. So it seems as though they have stepped in because of the arguing. He's wanted them pretty much to mind their motherfucking business, despite the fact that they're living, him and Demoree are living in, the grandparents' homes, and the grandparents are just not wanting things to further escalate. They're wanting things to calm down, and he's just wanting them to get the fuck out the way and shut the fuck up, mind their business, Things are escalating. I think that you can hear the a grandparent saying that this is my house, this is my house, this is my house. You know, they pretty much are trying to lay the law down.
I know it's your house. I don't have to watch them walk away. That's my house. Everything. See the shit you do? That's what you do. That's what you do. No! What you think I'm gonna do? We got money on the line. What you think I'm gonna do? 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 I work hard for this. You doing pop talk on the fucking phone. What you think I'm gonna do? Man, shut up. I'm talking. I told you I was gonna call your mama. Hello, I'm sorry, Mr. Perez. We had a business meeting. I told Demoree. I'm just talking. Nobody did anything to nobody. I'm here having a conversation with her. We had a business meeting worth a lot of money. I'm telling her to call you to see if her decision was okay. The business meeting is due.
Fucking retarded, bitch. Everybody want what you got. You don't even know it. Because you want what everybody else got. Stupid ass. You don't even see it. Fucking retarded bitch. I bet I made some sense tonight, though. Did not make some sense tonight. Talking to you.
Yes.
I'm never wrong either. Check my resume. Yo.
Yes.
This whole week, don't come in this room.
Okay. So according to Demoree, in her lawsuit, she's claiming that her mother is the one who these devices belong to, who installed these devices, but Morky's mom just made an interesting statement. We really don't know who did it, you know. For all we know, it could have been the grandparents, you know, or maybe the grandparents are in cahoots with, you know, their daughter, Desiree. It seems as though, obviously, with both the grandparents knowing that there is abuse emotionally, mentally, physically, etc., allegedly in their relationship, you know, maybe both the grandparents and their daughter, Desiree, agreed that, you know, them being here, you know, we need to keep an eye out on things, etc. You know, let's, you know, have things lined up in case, you know, shit get really bad. Because what I'm gonna tell you what is given to me based upon the text messages, and you guys are going to see this for yourself, that Desiree put in her lawsuit defending herself against her daughter. It's given that the daughter definitely is madly in love with her husband. She has an unhealthy codependency upon him. She's one of those women that, you know, is kind of, you know, she's a pick-me-sha in that way. She's very male identified in that way. She's clearly stigmatized. She makes excuses for her husband. And then when she can't take him, like when it gets too much and she's just not getting her way, and even when he's willing to walk away from the relationship, even when he's, you know, wanting to leave, she's trying to get her mother, the same one she's calling a felon and an ex-convict, the one who she's saying is so manipulative and cunning and conniving. She's actually trying to get that same person with those same alleged character traits to help her to manipulate her dude into staying with her. So it seems to me that by the time, whatever the circumstances were that led to her living with her grandparents, her and Javon, which I think she talked about in the lawsuit. The lawsuit got so much stuff in it that I can't remember, you know, the little details, but I think she talks about why they had to move in with the grandparents. I'm thinking that the grandparents and Desiree were like, look, we have somebody we care about who is in a toxic ass relationship. We don't know what the fuck is going to happen. You know, we believe that he's pretty much the aggressor. He's the one who's always raising his fist. He's the one always, you know, doing the most verbally. And, you know, with things getting bad, you know, we need to have some type of evidence in case something happens to her, you know, which I don't think is a unreasonable fear to have. I don't think that's an unreasonable concern, especially when you do have DV going on in a relationship. But at the same time, like, I also accept that, once again, there's a right and wrong way to go about things. And when it comes to a grown person, like, regardless of your fears, you don't have the, I'm not going to say you don't have the right, but it's arguable that recording someone without their consent, recording someone, having audio devices and shit in their personal space in their bedroom, even if it's in your damn house, that's a lot. And ultimately, this type of behavior is what led to that evidence being inadmissible when Desiree tried to get the authorities to do something about what was taking place, because Demoree was non-cooperative and saying that, look, this is illegally seized shit. These are secret recordings. My mother is being manipulative. She's invading my privacy. This ultimately resulted in the evidence not even being able to be admissible. So at the end of the day, it wasn't really sound to go about things this way. And pretty much like the prosecution said, you know, the victim also has to lean into this, really, for there to be substantive. Like, the DA could have picked up the case with Tory Lanez all they wanted to, but if they would not have had Megan cooperating, they, you know, the whole thing, it would have really fell apart. Unless there would have been, like, visual evidence, like surveillance, etc. But without the witness, you know, the DA a lot of times don't like to move forward with pressing charges. So that's the best way to go about it, is the family just continuing to encourage Demoree, you know, to take time for herself to heal, affirming the fact that the family would be there for her, you know, that they're willing to support her, that, you know, she needs to get help, that she needs to get out, etc. But, you know, recording Javon and Demoree without their consent, that is very invasive, and it's very inappropriate regardless of what's going on, because at the end of the day, Demoree is still a grown-ass woman. And it's unfortunate that she would be willing to stay in an abusive or toxic relationship, but that is her right as an adult. And when you find yourself as a person concerned about another person, being so concerned that you kind of start overstepping your boundaries, and you start doing things like this, where you become more invested in the person's healing than they are, that's when you actually have to pull the fuck back. That's when you actually have to take your own advice and fall the fuck back. It is distressing to watch someone that you care about, especially when it's your kids, even if they're grown, going through something like this. But at the same time, if you don't go about things the proper, appropriate way, you can end up just like Desiree is in, where now you're the bad guy, you're the villain, you're being sued, and everything that you tried to do to save your daughter, who was bringing the family into the relationship, is now being weaponized against you, and now you're having to fight for your life and your credibility, and, you know, having to deal with the potential consequences of the way that, you know, she went about trying to help her daughter. So it's now coming back to haunt Desiree, and this is why we all got to know our place. That's why we all got to. The bad thing about helping somebody who don't want to be helped and trying to save somebody who don't want to be saved is that all of your efforts, good, bad, or indifferent, are ultimately going to end up making you the villain in the situation. People who are stuck, people who are locked in gear, who are not ready to move on, to move forward, to move past, they don't have the ability to really see your help as help. They see it as counterproductive, counterintuitive. They see it as you actually not supporting them. It becomes a whole mess. This is the second part of evidence, or the second piece of evidence that was presented. This seems to be some type of home surveillance. This is like a at-home gym. Apparently, this is Demoree. You guys can see the camera is anchored in the corner. And allegedly, Javon is going to walk in for whatever reason. And he punches her dead in her face and pushes her into another room. Check this out. And viewer discretion is advised. Okay. So as you guys can see here, I'm not going to show him actually hitting her. I'm going to try to skim past that. Okay. He punches her dead in the face, and then he shoves her into another room. And then he leaves. Okay. So this is why I said it seems to be like that. A lot of things are true in this situation. There is abuse happening. The daughter is being physically beat on. She's being verbally and emotionally beat on. The mother, however, has been overzealous in her attempts to protect her daughter. She's taken some unconventional and illegal and unethical means to protect her daughter, to separate her daughter from this relationship. And with this situation with the husband being quote unquote falsely arrested, technically based upon the memo and how it was really broken down, while yes, it was a quote unquote false arrest, aka they didn't press charges, but they didn't press charges because of the way that the data was collected, and because Demoree was non-cooperative. Not per se because there wasn't any evidence, not because there wasn't any substance to Desiree Perez's claims, but because her daughter, the victim, the aka plaintiff in the case, was not cooperative and was creating another narrative that pretty much obstructed the DA from further pressing charges. So once again, it's a lot of moving parts here. Okay. Now, I wanted to bring up this clip because ironically, I saw this 5 hours ago in my algorithm, courtesy of the Neighborhood Talk. This is a whole separate situation from Demoree and Javon's situation, but this is captioned, "Heartbreaking Mother of 10 Unalived after allegedly being abused and shot 12 times by the father of her children. They were together for 20 years in a tumultuous relationship that included physical abuse. Quote, she just wanted to be happy." So these, it's understandable why Desiree, went to the ends of the earth to try to protect her daughter, even against her daughter's own wishes. Once again, it's understandable on an emotional level. It's even understandable on a kind of historical level because femicide is so high. Intimate partner violence is such a real thing. So many women and hell, now men are losing their lives in DV situations. We got the white girl who claims she shot her black boyfriend accidentally after they came home from, an event where he had girls who were dancing on him, and then ironically he loses his life. And then we got this situation right here where, a mother has lost her life at the hands of her mate. It's happening all across the board. Javon could end up dead. Demoree could end up dead. So it's understandable why, as a woman, this mother would be gravely concerned. Also, this is the same woman who's the CEO of Roc Nation, you know, so she's very clear even about the assault that happened unto Megan Thee Stallion, you know, who could have lost her life or been permanently injured, you know, as a result of being shot in a situation where, you know, by someone she was having a intimate relationship with. So once again, it's understandable. The feeling, the overprotectiveness, the all of that, especially as a parent, then as a woman, and then this is a woman, this is your daughter, all understandable. But once again, there is a right and wrong way to go about things, and you could go about the right thing the wrong way. That is a real thing. It happens all the time, baby. Okay, where you miscalculate, or you're too emotionally driven, you're not being logical, you're not being rational, even though your intent is well, and you end up really making a bad situation worse, or you end up getting your damn self into some shit now, you know, as a result of being more emotional than you are logical. So it seems like Perez emotions got to the best of her, and because she was a concerned mother and she was a wealthy mother and she had a lot of access and resources, she seemingly abused some of those resources and some of her economic and social reach. And once again, now she's being held accountable by a daughter who still doesn't want any help and who is still not ready to admit that she has been abused and that she's in a toxic relationship. Because despite this evidence being out there, let me go back to this. Demoree is trying to manipulate the public into believing that, you know, this footage is AI and the audio is AI, but at the same time, she debunks that inadvertently in her own lawsuit. She debunks that by even bringing forth to NBC News some of the excerpts from the memo by the DA, who are saying, look, we couldn't press charges because the plaintiff was non-cooperative and because the way the evidence was collected was questionable, aka secret recordings, etc. So Demoree is doing her fair share of lying and gaslighting because she's wanting to protect her relationship. She's wanting to protect her man. So we got to keep our eye on Demoree as well. This is not a situation where you have the CEO of Roc Nation just being corrupted and being a social narcissistic individual who's just rampaging, trying to control her daughter's life. The daughter has been in trouble. The daughter has tried to get her mother involved in her own relationship, etc. And there's been a lot of game playing on Demoree's part. And the mother has tried her best to, you know, save her daughter from things that her daughter at the time didn't have the full power to save herself from. And, you know, once again, it is a distressing situation to watch somebody go down a road that is not best for them, to endure things that are harmful, and to watch a person not have the wherewithal to advocate for themselves, to free themselves, to liberate themselves, and then you try to take it upon yourself to pull them up and pull them out by your sheer will, even if they have to cry and scream and kick doing so. But then once again, you end up in a situation like this where you do too much because you don't know how to turn away, you don't know how to let go, you don't know how to, you know, allow a person to make the choice, even the choice to bring harm to themselves. You have to love somebody enough to let them go. Now, once again, Desiree is being listed as the bad guy. Now, Demoree also said this. She has gotten a complaint due to some of her posts regarding the lawsuit and Roc Nation. And apparently there are other outlets, media outlets, maybe even some content creators who are being sent a takedown notice, allegedly by Roc Nation. That's what the claims are. So Demoree says this 23 hours ago. Thank you to everyone supporting us and spreading our story and all the injustices, intimidation, and exposing the harassment we have and are currently enduring. Reed Smith Law Firm and Desiree Perez and other attorneys and social media platforms are reporting, suspending, and banning accounts who are spreading awareness about our case or posts that are going viral to keep us hidden and to not allow for our voices to be heard. Please see video and photos of one of the many supporters we have that is going through this each time she tries to exercise free speech. Okay, so this is allegedly a takedown notice by somebody supporting, you know, her and her husband, who was sent this, I think, to their Twitter account. Please see the video and photos of one of the many supporters we have that is going through this each time she tries to exercise free speech. I will not, and I repeat, will not stay silent. Stop the bullying and illegal tactics. A news story by NBC6 South Florida with videos is not copyright infringement. I own the photos. Reply to X if you get reported. Let's blow up Turk Elon Musk and submit the NBC6 link to the story as proof that you are reposting a news story. I had the photos taken on my iPhone and I am the owner of those photos. Message me if you need proof to submit with your report. Reply to X or any platform. Thank you for supporting us and not allowing them to scare you. Okay, a user or commenter right underneath that says they're taking down pages left and right on Twitter. Someone tagged the news anchor and did your story because it's being flagged and it shouldn't. Praying for you and your husband. She responds to that by saying thank you. And yes, I am aware by the one I own the photo. Whoever gets reported can dispute the claim and submit the news link to the video and article because it's not illegal to repost a news story and message me because I have proof to show I own the photo. Also, yes, that's my Twitter. All right. So all of that is going on. It's a lot taking place. Now, let's get into, matter of fact, hold on. Let me see if there's anything else she got going on her page. Okay, this is the clip of her being detained for the psychic vow, the alleged illegal institutionalization. Let's go to her stories. Okay, she posted that takedown notice. Okay, somebody named Got the Scoop says that all of her accounts are being taken down. Ask people to follow her backup page. They're literally attacking everyone that is supporting. Hold on, let me pause this. They're literally attacking everyone that is supporting us. Ask yourself what kind of mother would do this, cares more about her image than anyone else. The Scoop says he almost got me. Today's been a weird and strange day. So many things going on, but let me tell you something. You can't stop me no matter what. This person apparently was hacked into Facebook. There was a fake login attempt, and then Demoree captions it this: her team is trying to hack others. This is what they did to my husband and I to fabricate evidence. They have the technology to do anything. Who wants an IG live with me? She Officer Joseph Reyes from Broward County, from Broward Sheriff's Office, Deanna Beach badge number. Do your thing, bloggers. Okay, they're asking people to report and to dig deep. Officer Jordan Dennis badge number from Broward Sheriff's Office, Deanna Beach. Do your thing, supporters. Dr. Daniel Barber, he has an Instagram too. This is that video.
How would you feel if somebody did this to you?
Man, we don't know you. We don't know you. Let him do his job.
Okay.
If we knew the circumstances.
Are your lieutenant, somebody?
No, that's not how that works. We handle it because that's not how that works.
Okay, where this is.
There's no way coming out because
somebody says, where's the documentation with this paper?
He'll give you the form.
Oh, I ain't even shared my screen. I thought I had shared my screen, y'all. I'm so sorry. I still had the screenshots up. I thought I had shared my damn screen. My God, today. My God, today.
Listen, but he's discussing with your doctor. If we go down the route of Baker Act, we'll give you a form, okay? However, if we choose to not Baker Act, then we'll let you go on your merry way.
Isn't she a doctor? Why is this random guy who I've never seen say that?
He's a doctor. He's part of the mobile crisis unit.
I've never spoken to him.
I don't care. That doesn't matter.
Doesn't that go how the law goes?
No,
so you can call and make a lie on somebody.
No.
And they can get arrested.
Who's an arrest?
Or can be forced to go to a hospital because you've gotten fake tips from people. I don't understand how that's okay.
I don't know what tips you're talking about. I don't know what was said. I don't know who said that.
Okay. Well, you know what's so funny, y'all? I know that like we use the term unbiased, but I don't. You know, I prefer the term. I prefer the term. Centered. I prefer like thanks for being a centered blogger, because you know I do try to be as fair as possible. I try to look at everything. I try to consider all, you know, everything that's going on and have a clear understanding based upon everything that we're given from all sides, and then make sense of it. Yeah, no. So I do try to be diligent in that way. I think that's a product of me being like a truth seeker. Is when you are a truth seeker, you can't be biased. You want to learn all the religions. You want to hear from everybody's perspective on God. You want to hear all the philosophies. You want to, you know, weigh it in and weigh it out. So I just try to, you know, look at everything and then call it down the middle, because, well, I guess I am not biased in that way. You know, I don't really have a rooster in the fight. So, you know, there can be multiple things that are true at once. Like, you know, with Demoree, you know, she is being abused. Her mother isn't making this up. These things are true. But at the same time, the mother definitely seemingly has broken the law and went about things, you know, in some non-ethical ways. I have not read her reply yet. We're going to get into that. So, you know, my attitude may change, maybe based upon the way she defends herself against these allegations, and what she presents as so-called evidence, you know, may result in us having a new understanding that the mother did not go about anything illegally, Okay, so we're going to, you know, we're just going to be fair, explore everything, make sense of everything accordingly. If your Twitter, IG, Facebook, TikTok has been suspended, reported, shadow banned, or if you've received, I wonder if I'm being shadow banned, because, you know, we only got 100-something people up in this motherfucker, and we didn't even crack 200 in the last live, and y'all know we easily be over 300, 400, 500, 600, child. So, with all this stuff going on, you know, there may be something to it. I chopped it up to just, you know, I ain't been live in a few days. Maybe, you know, that's why, you know, I'm having to crank the algorithm up again. But hell, considering what we've been talking about, maybe there is some truth to that, because we should have a lot more conscious crew members in the building. All right, so all of that is going on. Now let's get into the mother's reply. Okay, she's looking to have the lawsuit dismissed. Then we're going to get into Desiree's lawsuit against the husband, Javon. And you guys, please thumbs up. We need all of that. Yes. Please share, y'all. Share everything out. Share it out. Please. We need all of that. All right. Now, Desiree Perez amends her motion to dismiss the complaint pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 812B6 and motion to strike allegations in the complaint pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12G. And once again, we're going to skim probably through all the like preliminary, you know, technical stuff and just get to the meat and the potatoes. This is her introduction. For years, Ms. Perez has been forced to watch her daughter, the plaintiff, suffer inhumane and relentless cruelty, manipulation, and abuse at the hands of plaintiff's now husband, Javon Hadley. Plaintiff has consistently been subjected to Hadley to physical violence, psychological abuse, sexual exploitation, and financial coercion, including while both of them were living in the family home. Ms. Perez witnessed Hadley's abuse towards her daughter firsthand through information received from several of her family members and documented in text, photograph, and various recordings that Ms. Perez has viewed. Okay, so right out of the gate, here it is. Ms. Perez is saying, you know, while her daughter is, you know, wanting to center this villain arc around her, that in fact, maybe this has been a group effort to save you, and that, you know, a lot of the evidence that I brought forth to the police and that is going viral right now is evidence given to me by, you know, other relatives that you guys have lived with, etc. You know, so it seems like she's seemingly trying to debunk that these are her personal recording devices. If your grandmother and grandpa decided to lace the house down with surveillance cameras and da-da-da-da-da, that's what they did. They brought it to me. I'm your mother and I give a fuck, and you're clearly in danger and you don't have the wits to save yourself. So I did what the fuck any other, protective parent would do, and try to hold your abuser accountable and give you an opportunity to save what the fuck is remaining of your motherfucking mind. And here it is now. I'm the bad guy. Out of concern for her daughter's physical and mental well-being, including a text message that plaintiff would rather die than be separated from her abusive boyfriend, Ms. Perez and family attempted to get help for plaintiff. Displeased with these efforts, Hadley resorted to retaliating against Ms. Perez, including by unlawfully surveilling her and other members of her family and manufacturing the allegations underlining this baseless and frivolous suit in an attempt to both leverage a large financial settlement and to harass and intimidate Ms. Perez into silence. The complaint is a clear example of plaintiff's capitulation to her husband's demands for control by asserting these false claims. Okay, so that's an interesting thought as well. Desiree is making a claim that, look, you're mad, and your man is mad, and you're mad, and your man is madder than you, of course, because, he's the one who done had to be arrested and put up with me being on his motherfucking ass as a result of, acting as a human shield for you. And so I don't even really believe that this is all of your own doing. This is the doing of your husband, forcing you to clean up his fucking image. And, you so digmatized and you so Stockholm to damn death that you out here doing his bidding and his dirty work for you, and we the one trying to save you. But you're helping him to isolate us from you, and you're helping him to cover up and conceal his behavior and his abuse towards you. Amongst the complaint's 21 causes of action, 8 are asserted against Ms. Perez, including claims under RICO, Florida Civil Conspiracy, Section 1983, the Stored Communications Act, the Federal Wiretap Act, the Florida Security of Communications Act, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff essentially asked the court to accept that a mother's petitioning of authorities and subsequent legal proceedings, actions rooted in legitimate concern, amount to a racketeering enterprise and a deprivation of civil rights. As set forth below, none of the claims set forth a valid cause of action, and they all should be dismissed with prejudice. Okay, this is the legal standard. We ain't really got to get into that. However, in a considering, I'll read some of it. To survive a motion to dismiss brought pursuant to Rule 12b, a complaint must contain sufficient factual matter accepted as true to state a claim to relief that is plausible on its face, such as in case law here. However, in considering a motion to dismiss, the court need not accept as true the allegations of the complaint, which are merely legal conclusions rather than factual assertions, such as case laws there. Accordingly, taking the facts as true, a court may grant a motion to dismiss when, quote, on the basis of a dispositive issue of law on construction of the factual allegations will support the cause of action in case laws there. As detailed below, plaintiff's insufficient and conclusory allegations do not satisfy the essential elements of any of her causes of action. Plaintiff fails to state a viable RICO claim. Okay, we're going to read some of this, not all of this. A civil RICO claim under Section 18 has 5 elements: 1, conduct; 2, of an enterprise; 3, through a pattern; 4, racketeering activity; and 5, proximate causation of injury to the plaintiff's business or property. Plaintiff's RICO count does not meet these elements, particularly because RICO was never intended to turn legitimate mental health interventions into, quote, racketeering activity. Okay? The complaint does not allege a cognizable RICO enterprise. An enterprise must be an ongoing organization, formal or informal, in which the various associations function as a continuing unit with a common purpose, such as in case law there. Here, plaintiff does not explain how there is any such enterprise outside of just Ms. Perez. In fact, the entire cause of action describing the supposed RICO activity is just actions allegedly taken by Ms. Perez. Importantly, plaintiff pleads no facts establishing any organizational structure or common purpose uniting these disparate entities. There is no allegation of a decision-making hierarchy, no ongoing coordination, and no continuity of any such enterprise. In sum, there are no allegations to support RICO enterprise. The complaint provides no plausible basis to treat this transient grouping as a cohesive enterprise, so the RICO claim fails at the most basic level. Okay, so once again, you guys remember, this is law. This is legality. So the way things have to be defined, the way things have to, the standard of charges and applications of convictions have to meet legal standard, okay? This then transcends the realm of, you know, how we judge things in a court of public opinion, you know, how we perceive evidence, etc., in order for things to move through the legal system and be concluded properly, whether it's a person's innocence or whether it is a guilty verdict, once again, has to meet legal standard. Plaintiffs also fails to plead a pattern of racketeering activity. A pattern requires at least two predicate acts of racketeering that are related to each other and that amount to or pose a threat of continual criminal activity. Dismissing RICO cause of action that failed to allege a pattern or enterprise, the complaint is devoid of well-pleaded facts identifying any qualifying predicate acts by Ms. Perez or by anyone for that matter. Plaintiff makes vague references to kidnapping, wire fraud, or bribery, but these labels are conclusory allegations, are unsupported by factual allegations of specific criminal conduct. Merely characterizing lawful conduct such as filing a court petition or calling the police as a crime does not make it so. Thus, the complaint does not sufficiently plead any pattern of racketeering. No injury or business or property. Plaintiff's RICO claim also fails because she has not alleged any injury to her business or property. Plaintiff claim injuries are personal in nature, emotional trauma, loss of freedom, attempting to separate her from her boyfriend, which are not compensable under RICO. Plaintiff does not adequately claim that she suffered any damage to a business interest or loss of property as a result of the alleged scheme. This is a fundamental pleading omission. Without a harm to business or property, plaintiff cannot state a RICO claim. For all of these reasons, lack of an enterprise, lack of a pattern of racketeering, and lack of a cognizable RICO injury, count 1 should in fact be goddamn dismissed. Count 2 and 3 for civil conspiracy failed to state a cause of action and must be dismissed. To establish a claim for civil conspiracy, a plaintiff must allege 1, an argument between 2 or more parties, 2, to do an unlawful act by unlawful means, and 3, the committing of an overt act in pursuance of the conspiracy, and 4, damage to the plaintiff as a result of the act. Count 2 asserts a civil conspiracy between Ms. Perez, Roc Nation, and Roc Nation employee Natalie Anderson. Count 3 alleges a civil conspiracy between Ms. Perez and others that allegedly caused plaintiff to be committed to a facility under the Baker Act. For count 2, dismissal is required pursuant to the intra-corporate conspiracy doctrine. The intra-corporate conspiracy doctrine provides that, quote, acts of corporate agents are attributed to the corporation itself, thereby negating the multiplicity of actors necessary for the formation of a conspiracy, such as in case law there. And then I think they have an excerpt from said case law. Simply put, under the doctrine, a corporation cannot conspire with its employees, and its employees, when acting in the scope of their employment, cannot conspire amongst themselves. The doctrine is based on the nature of a conspiracy and the legal conception of a corporation. It is by now axiomatic that a conspiracy requires a meeting of the minds between 2 or more persons to accomplish a common or unlawful plan. However, under basic agency principles, the acts of a corporation's agency are considered to be those of a single legal actor. Therefore, just as it is not legally possible for an individual person to conspire with himself, it is not possible for a single legal entity consisting of the corporation and its agents to conspire with itself. And count 2. plaintiff has alleged that defendants Ms. Perez, Roc Nation, and Ms. Anderson, quote, took actions to advance the plan while in their capacity as Roc Nation employees. Accordingly, plaintiff is alleging that Ms. Perez and Ms. Anderson, as Roc Nation employees, conspired with each other to advance the purported conspiracy because employees acting in their capacity as employees cannot conspire amongst themselves. Plaintiffs failed to meet the first element of a conspiracy claim, an agreement between two or more parties. This serves as an independent basis to dismiss count 2. So I think what they're trying to establish here is that if you get like a sheriff and he has deputies and the sheriffs execute orders by, if the deputies execute the orders of the sheriff, whomever is on the receiving end of those orders, whoever is the defendant in that case, cannot claim that the sheriff and the deputies were in a conspiracy simply because those deputies simply had a role, because those deputies are actually employees and they did their jobs, etc. And I guess she's trying to say that her daughter is just trying to make the basic argument that because other employees of Roc Nation had their hand in this, and with her being the CEO, right? Like, those employees are actually her employees. You know, she's the boss. So whatever she acts of them, that per se can't be turned into a conspiracy unless literally there is a understanding and a agreement, a particular agreement that what we are doing is intended to do this, and this is what the motive is, etc. And she's saying that her daughter's arguments lack all of that nuance. She's just trying to put everybody into a cabal under the title of RICO, which, once again, is one thing if you want to make the legal claim that all these people were in cahoots, but you're not just making that claim, and you're not just talking about conspiracy. You're literally using the legal term racketeering. You're using the legal term RICO, and the formation of your arguments and the lack thereof are not sufficient enough to define RICO and racketeering legally. Okay, so these are claims that the daughter can make, but, you know, concluding them as RICO and concluding them as racketeering is where it seems that Desiree Perez attorneys are like clocking all of that and saying, look, this is not legally sufficient, and these things do not put substance and blood into RICO and racketeering. Count 2 and 3 fail to allege unlawful acts or as a conspiracy at all. Count 2 and 3 are also subject to dismissal as to Ms. Perez because it is not alleged that Ms. Perez even knows many of the individuals with whom she allegedly conspired. As such, there cannot have been a meeting of the minds, a prerequisite to any conspiracy. Okay, so that's what I just explained. Amongst the various individuals identified in the complaint. Moreover, there is no assertion that Ms. Perez conducted an unlawful act by unlawful means. Even taken as true, she acted in good faith to have plaintiff evaluated consistent with her rights as a caring mother under the Baker Act and Marchman Act, as she believes plaintiff was a danger to herself, including a text message that she'd rather die than be separated by her abuser or from her abuser. Based on her concern for her daughter's mental state, Ms. Perez is immunized from these conspiracy claims. Okay, so she's saying under the Baker's Act and Marchman Act, girl, I have the actual legal right. Matter of fact, where's my phone? Let's hold on. Let me get my phone. Let's look up some stuff. Let's look up some shit. Let's look up Siri. What is the Baker's Act?
Here's an answer from SilverandLawGroup.com.
Can you read it to me?
This page is not set up for me to read.
Can you set it up? See? Bye, Siri.
Okay.
Incompetent bitch. Hold on, you guys. AI ain't good for shit. All right, Florida Mental Health Act of 1971 is a law that allows for emergency mental health services and temporary detention for up to 72 hours. The act's goal is to ensure the safety of individuals with severe mental illness who may be a danger to themselves or others. Okay, so the Baker's Act, once again, is, you know, it's subjective. It's based upon the observer. In this case, it would be Desiree Perez. You know, if you believe, if you're under suspicion, if you feel someone is in duress, in a state of mania, or in a state of personal endangerment, etc., then you can get that person evaluated based upon your personal findings, etc. Let's see, the Marshman Act. The Marshman Act, formerly known as the Hall-Marshman Alcohol and Other Drug Services Act of 1993, is a Florida state law that provides for the involuntary and voluntary assessment, stabilization, and treatment of individuals struggling with substance abuse. Okay, now, Perez apparently alleges that she received text messages that her daughter was trying to pretty much get a hold of another person's prescription pills. But Demoree claims that she never asked for those prescription pills and that she pretty much has a text thread to show that she never did. Okay, so I don't know, rather maybe Demoree deleted that on her end, which is why it would show that she did not ask for any prescription pills, or maybe that was falsified information, etc. She did test negative for all drugs at the psych ward. So, you know, I don't know. And this narrative that Demoree was threatening to OD, I'm not sure what the context is and how that comes up, but hopefully that gets addressed in this particular situation or in her complaint. Okay, let's see here. She's protected under the statute. Any person who acts in good faith in compliance with the provisions of this part is immune from civil or criminal liability for his or her actions in connection with the admission or discharge of a patient to or from a facility. Okay, so they're saying that you can't hold somebody accountable who in good faith believe that the person who had to be admitted was hold on, how the fuck was I saying that? This lawnmower is distracting me. This legislation provides immunity for the person who under good faith believed that the person needed some type of an external third party intervention, etc. That's a stipulation, a nuance tied up into the act. So no, you cannot bring civil or criminal penalty to someone who had you admitted, who under good faith believed that you needed that work. For the plaintiff's conclusory statement that she did not meet the criteria for commitment is similarly unavailing. Plaintiff asserts that her doctor disputed her need for hospitalization due to any suspected thought disorder. However, that is not the proper standard. Instead, plaintiff's own complaint confirms that she likely, as a result of the abuse she has suffered, has refused any treatment, and the ongoing well-documented history of the abuse at the hands of Hadley confirms that without treatment, she was likely to suffer neglect or a refusal to care for herself, all of which would have led to future serious bodily harm. Finally, plaintiff alleges that Ms. Perez conspired with Dr. Barber to commit her under the Baker Act statute, which again is factually unsupported. There is nothing in the complaint to suggest that Dr. Barber did not exercise his own judgment in assessing plaintiff, or the law enforcement did not exercise their own discretion when they directed plaintiff to go with Dr. Barber to the mental health facility for an evaluation. Okay, so Perez is saying, look, girl, you making all these claims, but let's be literal here. You have no evidence of a conspiracy, because when you are speaking about the police task force independently and Dr. Barber independently, all these are separate entities who were allowed to exercise their own discretion. If I had a legal right to have you admitted and have you observed, evaluated based upon the evidence I had from you directly and that I had from other relatives, and it's not against the law for me to call the police. It's not against the law for me to enact the Baker's Act or the Marshman Act. These things are not illegal. They're in place to be utilized. If then the other contributing cooperative components, such as police, psychiatrists, etc., also come into the equation, they get to make their own assessment of the situation. And if all those assessments lined up in a way that puts you in a 72 hole or put you in a 5150 for 2 days, then so be it. But that's not conspiracy. If it was conspiracy, actually, your boyfriend would be locked up doing time right now. If it was conspiracy, because this is what I would argue back. If it was conspiracy and we're so powerful, Roc Nation so powerful, I'm so manipulative, then that means that those drug results we would have falsified. Why would we have allowed your drug results to come back negative if I was under the belief that you were going to OD and that you had threatened to OD and I was in a conspiratorial coup with Dr. Barber? How in the fuck, could we all be conspiring if we allowed the integrity of your drug results to come back clean, because that's what they were, clean? You don't think that would have made us look like shit? You don't think that if we were all in a conspiracy to get you locked up falsely, to get you put away falsely, you don't think we also would have falsified the drug results so that we could have further justified keeping your ass away? If I, in fact, the big mob wife, big corrupted Roc Nation CEO had police in a chokehold, don't you think that we would have been able to get the DA to formally press charges to put your boyfriend away? Your math is not mathing. You're just upset that I utilized things that I had the right to, and that other independent agents within that make their own assessments, and that it took time out of your life, and you're embarrassed, and you're protecting your nigga, and you're just mad that I came for y'all's necks, and that I was doing the best that I could as a concerned mother, because I don't want to see anything happen to you. I don't want to see you have to do anything to him. And I utilized what was in my legal right to utilize, and you're just mad because I was successful in utilizing some of those things. But inadvertently, I can't literally be the person that you're claiming me to be, because if we were all in a conspiratorial coup, we wouldn't be here, right? Your ass would still be in a 72 chokehold. Your man would be sitting somewhere in the Broward County Correctional Facility, right? The DA, slung it back in a memo, right? Putting me, the big kingpin, on blast, right? Saying that you weren't cooperative, and that the way I went about the evidence based upon your allegations led them to not pursuing the goddamn charges. So how do I got the DA into? How do I got the police in a chokehold? If that were the case, baby, you wouldn't be here to live to tell about it. You would be somewhere with a goddamn horse tranquilizer in your ass cheek, bitch, in a padded fucking room. And your boyfriend would be down there with the bling bling pasta, bitch, serving time for DV and abuse and harassment. Clearly, this was an integral exercising of my parental rights, of my human rights, that you were the subject of, being the damsel in distress. And the proof of the integrity of all of this is in the fact that you're a free woman. Your drug test came back clear. The police didn't pursue charges, which makes all of your claims fall flat. That we're in conspiracy with the police. We're in conspiracy with the psych ward. We're in conspiracy with the doctors. All of that shit falls flat, bitch. Try again. Try again. You're just ego hurt. You're just butt hurt. You're just mad as hell. And your abusive ass boyfriend just got his hand on your goddamn neck, making you get at me to make himself feel better and look better, etc. Because, yeah, all of my actions to intercede make him look like what he possibly is, or what he is, at least in some part. And now you are here being the queen of PR stunts for a ninja that was trying to leave you to go to his goddamn mama's house. And the abusive, manipulative mother that you're alleging is the same person who you want to employ all of those characteristics to help you to manipulate him into staying with your raggedy ass. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And this is why I say this is a very convoluted situation. Very convoluted. And I'm glad that we're reading Mrs. Perez legal breakdown and argument because, you know, she waking it up. Perez is waking it up. Now, a lot of content creators, you guys, I'm going to warn y'all now. Y'all are not going to hear a sensible reading and unpacking of things because a lot of people are already kind of biasly against JayZ and Roc Nation. So, you know, as far as they're concerned, they really are not going to, you know, highlight Perez's defense. They're going to just kind of stick to the daughter's claims and kind of lean into the social conspiracy theory narrative against Roc Nation being powerful. But really, that all comes apart. That all comes apart considering all things I just said. But they're not going to specialize in all of this because they're in it for the conspiracy narrative about Roc Nation. They're in it for the conspiracy narrative. It fits, you know, they're pseudo cape for Tory. They're pseudo cape for, you know, Lil Wayne not fucking getting the Super Bowl. You know, they're envy of Beyonce's success. So a lot of content creators want Roc Nation, and because the conspiracy stuff, you know, it pays. It pays. I see why people grift off of the conspiracy shit. I see why people, you know, will edit out the story in such a way that it gives them enough room to continue to be conspiratorial in their commentating because there's a crowd for that. But, you know, over here, we don't do things for crowds. We don't even do things for numbers. You know, we just make sense of the shit. And whoever that ends up benefiting is whoever it ends up benefiting. Sometimes making sense of the shit is going to benefit the people we don't like. Sometimes it's going to benefit the people that we love. It's really just more so about the truth and having a rational, sound, logical assessment of things more so than it is about pandering and placating into, you know, the foolishness because that's just what people want to hear. All right, finally, plaintiff alleges that Ms. Perez conspired with Dr. Barber to commit her under the Baker Act, I think, which is factually unsupported. There's nothing in the complaint that suggests that Barber. Okay, yes, so she called all that out, the law enforcement, In some, the conspiracy allegations in plaintiff's complaint fail as a matter of law. In each alleged conspiracy in counts 2 and 3 should, in fact, be dismissed. Yep, Conscious. And they'll be crying if that girl end up unalive because of this violent ninja. They'll be like, her mom, exactly. You can't win for losing. And once again, you know, if the mother didn't go about anything illegally and these recordings are not of her own, she did not lace the room. These were recordings, you know, given to her by other relatives, the grandparents, etc. Then, you know, the mother did what she was supposed to do and taking those matters up with the police. She was within her right to go to the law without her daughter's consent about what she believed was an abusive, violent situation. And then it was up to, you know, police and the DA to investigate from there. They decided that, you know, based upon the way it was claimed, you know, the evidence was obtained and the victim being non-cooperative, you know, the husband is free. But to your point, Todd, yeah, if something would happen to her, you know, the conversations would have never ended. Where was her mother? Where was her mother? Where was her mother? If that was my daughter, if that was my daughter, if that was my kid, I would have did everything. Well, that's exactly what she did. Everything she could. And now it's all coming back to bite her in her motherfucking ass. Plaintiff's claim under Rule 42, the 1983, also fails. Section 1983 provides a remedy for the violation of constitutional rights by persons acting, quote, under color of state law, such as in case law there. The statute does not reach private conduct. The threshold question for any statute claim is thus rather the defendant's alleged actions can be fairly attributable to the state, such as in case law there. Here the complaint concedes that Ms. Perez is a private citizen. The acts plaintiff complains of making reports to police, participating in medical psychological evaluations, and filing or supporting petitions in court are all acts that any private individual might undertake. None of these is an exclusive pejorative of the state. It is well settled that the mere fact that a private party elicited help from state authorities does not convert her into a state actor. Plaintiff has not alleged, nor could she allege, that Ms. Perez had any power or authority beyond that of an ordinary citizen. To the extent plaintiff tries to invoke the concept of a conspiracy with state actors, her allegations are wholly conclusory. To state a statute conspiracy, a plaintiff must plead specific facts showing an agreement between the private and state actors to violate the plaintiff's rights, such as in state law there, in case law there. There is no allegation in the complaint, for instance, of any meeting or corrupt agreement between Ms. Perez, like I said earlier, and any government official. There is no allegation that Ms. Perez controlled or directed the officer's independent judgment. At most, Ms. Perez is alleged to have provided information to officials, which is not enough to support a cause of action, such as in case law there. Because plaintiff cannot plausibly allege that Ms. Perez acted under color of state, her 1983 statute fails as a matter of law. This is not a defect that can be cured by repleading. It is a fundamental bar. Accordingly, the statute claim should be dismissed with prejudice. Plaintiff's Stored Communications Act claim fails for multiple reasons. To state a claim under the SCA, plaintiff must plausibly allege that the defendant, one, intentionally assessed without authorization or exceeded authorized access to a facility through which an electronic communication service is provided, and 3, and thereby obtained, altered, or prevented authorized access to a wire or electronic communications. 4, while the communication was in electronic storage, such as in case law there. Here, plaintiff does not identify any specific iCloud file that was accessed, how Ms. Perez accessed it, or whether she lacked authorization to do so. But simply, plaintiff claims that Ms. Perez violated the SCA by accessing her iCloud account and potentially storing private information from that account. However, courts have held that without proof of accessing more, just accessing a cell phone is not enough for the SCA. Okay, she's called. For the plaintiff willfully abandoned an old cracked cell phone, which Ms. Perez purchased for her, and plaintiff synced her cell phone to Ms. Perez's computer, through which plaintiff made her iPhone data available to everyone at the family home before she moved out in 2023. As such, Ms. Perez lawfully reviewed the phone's contents, did not exceed any authorization, and cannot be held liable. Okay, so she's saying, girl, girl, a phone that I purchased for her that was already synced to a computer at the house, resynced it upon her activating it. And look, it's her job to cut off her Bluetooth and everything else, child. All I did was press enter, honey. All I did was press connect, baby. All I did was look over to the left, baby, and see the contents therein, child. Bitch. Screaming. Plaintiff's claims under the Federal Wiretap Act and the Florida Security of Communications Act fail as a matter of law. In each count, it is alleged that Ms. Perez, an unknown time, conspired with others to surreptitiously plant a camera into the Hadley's bedroom without their knowledge. It is also alleged that she planted a listening device. Along with being false, the complaint never addresses what audio device was in the room or whether such a device could actually capture audio. Indeed, the complaint suggests the alleged device is in plaintiff's control. Thus, she could plead whether the device records audio that can be intercepted by an outside listener. To state a claim under the statutes, plaintiff must plausibly allege defendants, 1, intentionally, 2, intercepted, endeavored to intercept, or procured another person to intercept or endeavor to intercept, 3, the contents of, 4, in electronic communication, 5, using a device, such as in case law there. The FSCA is modeled after the Wiretap Act, and given the similarities between the two statutes, Florida's follows federal courts as to the meaning of provisions after which Chapter 934 was modeled. Importantly, each statute requires that the communication must include audio and not just video. Okay, so once again, you guys know all we had were screenshots of a device, and once again, these are screenshots. You know, we don't even know if these devices work in a way that Demoree claims. She simply asserts a claim that her mother planted them, but does not provide any proof, which is why Desiree is, letting it be known up and throughout her defense that these are conclusory, these are speculations. She is not putting any blood to her claims, and hell, for all she knows, these are devices that, she brought her goddamn self, and things that, randomly around the goddamn house that she's presenting as this, that, and the third, once again, in order to build her case against her mother, but that there's no there's no actuality to any of these things. And where's the proof that the mother did it exactly? There is none. Here, the allegation Ms. Perez planted a surveillance device in plaintiff's room is not only false, but has no factual support in the complaint. Notably, the image of Hadley in plaintiff's bedroom, allegedly captured through a illegal recording device, was in fact captured on plaintiff's own cell phone that she left at the home. Unsurprisingly, plaintiff is unable to allege that any of the alleged interceptions from an illegal recording device included audio. All there is to support this allegation is an image. That is because there is no illegal recording device, and plaintiff cannot use this undeniably false fact as a basis to satisfy a federal or state Wiretap Act claim. In sum, because it is not alleged beyond a mere legal assertion that an actual device that could capture audio was in plaintiff's bedroom, those counts should be dismissed. Finally, both the Federal Wiretap Act and FSCA have a 2-year statute of limitations that begins to run once plaintiff has a reasonable opportunity to discover the violation. Even if the allegations in the complaint were true, the complaint alleges that the camera or device at issue had been in the bedroom since at least July 18th of 2022, and thus well outside the 2-year statute of limitations. Plaintiff's final claim against Ms. Perez is IIED also fails, emotional infliction of emotional distress. A claim of IIED under Florida law has 4 elements. 1, the defendant's conduct was intentional or reckless. 2, the conduct was outrageous beyond all bounds of decency. 3, the conduct caused emotional distress. And 4, the emotional distress was severe. Hereupon multiple occasions that her daughter was physically assaulted upon her daughter, texting that she'd rather die than be separated from her abuser, and believing that her daughter was abusing prescription pills, Ms. Perez is alleged to have sought help and an intervention for plaintiff. This intervention on September 2023 was 3 days after police were called to the family home due to Hadley physically assaulting plaintiff and a family member having to step between the two of them to protect plaintiff. Ms. Perez is then accused of falsely providing information that led to an allegedly false detaining of plaintiff under the Baker Act and Marchman Act. This conduct, as alleged, does not rise to the level of an IIED claim, such as in case law here. Hold on. Even if the Baker Act and Marchman Act evaluations caused plaintiff emotional distress, those were facially legal actions grounded in Ms. Perez's legitimate concern for her daughter's safety. Accordingly, those counts should be dismissed. Okay, so here it is. She's saying, girl, you can't sue me over the way you felt about things that I had the right to do, right? So let's say I called the police on Javon because he was all in my daughter's face, blah, 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 blah. They were, heated, things were escalating. I called the police intervened. My daughter is embarrassed or upset that I called the police. She's embarrassed that I employed those services. And she thinks she can sue me simply because she felt the way. You can't. You can't sue me for enacting the Baker's Act. You can't sue me for the Marchman Act. You can't sue me, can't sue me because of how you feel about those things. And you know what's so funny is that, baby, the more that Desiree kind of like lines this thing up and reminds us that all these are simply allegations, it's just really being sensationalized because of the bias already against Roc Nation and JayZ and the Megan Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez stuff. But the reality is there is actually no proof here. And Desiree is right. I mean, she does get to call the law. The family does get to call the law if there's anything inappropriate going on. And for 2, we know that there's been inappropriate things going on, violent things going on based upon the audio and the videos that Miss Demoree has already admitted is real. She's just claiming that they were illegally obtained. Not that they per se are false, but that they are illegally obtained. They were illegally seized, that, her mother tapped into her phone, broke into her phone, laced her room up with surveillance and audio and devices and this, that, and the third, dot. And we already know that Demoree is lying to us because on social media, despite what's in her lawsuit, she's trying to claim that all the things that we're seeing and hearing now are AI and Photoshop. And she's forgetting what she has already admitted to in her lawsuit, that these things are real. Her claim is that they've just been illegally obtained. So I'm going to be honest. Right now, Demoree is not only giving Pick Misha. It's unfortunate that she seems to be a DV victim, but it's also giving very much so Karen. She's misrepresenting a lot of shit and throwing a lot of empty allegations against her mother without sufficient substantive proof, and she's kind of playing a little bit on everybody's head top. And I guess she really forgot who her mother is, because even if her mother doesn't have psychiatrists or police in her chokehold, which obviously she does not, which is why there's an 11-page memo that vindicates Javon, even though that's mostly due to the fact that Demoree is intercepting her mom's attempts to get the abuse and toxicity acknowledged by the law, that her mother at least is like wealthy enough to have proper legal representation. So I don't know whether Demoree got, you know, some type of damn state appointed or public defender to write up her lawsuit. Because right now, in terms of litigating, Desiree is eating Demoree ass up alive. But once again, you guys probably won't hear that narrative a lot because most of the content creators who are reporting and sensationalizing this lawsuit probably haven't even covered the mom's response. They've only dealt with the initial complaint and, you know, all of the sensationalism that can be extracted from that. They probably won't even get as far down, you know, and probably don't even care to, once again, because, you know, a person would have to actually be fair, and they would have to also come to these same conclusions, which you don't want to come to if you are in the business of kind of giving the public what they want, and you're in the business of just, you know, specializing in the sensationalized parts of shit and not really the truth, and hearing from all parties, etc. But she's chewing her daughter up, girl. Yes, Todd is giving very much so. Tyrone Blackburn is giving Tony Busby, baby. It's giving Gloria Alfred. I don't know who representing the daughter. I don't know who representing the daughter, girl. But Desiree is chewing her up, girl. I gotta see. Is this the work of Addict Spiro? I gotta see who representing Desiree ass, baby, because she getting chewed. She is getting chewed. Plaintiff's complaint is flawed attempt to penalize her family's legitimate efforts to seek help for her. The sensationalist claims for racketeering or constitutional violations collapse under basic legal scrutiny. Accordingly, each cause of action against Ms. Perez should be dismissed, girl. And the lawsuit goes on to dismiss, you know, to give her reasons to dismiss all the things. Okay, let's get into these text messages, child. Let me see here. Oh, we need to read this. Hold on. Motion to strike pursuant. This case stems from a family nightmare in which Desiree Perez and her family have done everything within their ability to free plaintiff from the physical violence, psychological abuse, sexual exploitation, and financial coercion imposed by her husband, Javon Hadley. Sadly, the complaint is nothing more than an overreaching attack on Ms. Perez with false, scandalous, and immaterial accusations to get what Hadley believes to be his payday. Prior to filing the verified complaint, plaintiff and Hadley's attorney wrote a demand letter to Ms. Perez and sought millions, here we go, to avoid a public lawsuit. But Ms. Perez, a loving mother, did not succumb to the disingenuous threat. Okay, so like TD Jakes, Ms. Perez says, baby, no, bitch, I want the smoke, girl. Because I know you ain't got shit, bitch. I want the smoke, ho. Bring me the smoke, okay? Plaintiff then filed her complaint, which is a replete with false allegations that have no relation to the causes of action asserted and have no purpose other than a transparent effort to harass, defame, and embarrass a party to this action. Indeed, on January 16th of 2022, plaintiff's husband punched her in the head as captured on a home video security system, which we saw, which plaintiff herself asked Ms. Perez to install in the home. Wow. On September 11th, 2023, when plaintiff wouldn't reduce her ownership percentage of the business she co-owned with Hadley down to 5%, which was to Hadley's benefit, he physically assaulted her again. The audio and video surveillance cameras in the main areas of the home, not within plaintiff's bedroom, caught the... Oh my God. We never even considered that, you guys. We never even considered that. You know, well, of course, that's what happens when you take things at face value. This is why it's always good to listen to both sides, to listen to people's rebuttal, etc. Because, you know, we had assumed that these audios, that 4-minute audio copulation was, you know, due to secret surveillance in her bedroom. Once again, to Desiree's point, there's no proof that she installed anything. She submitted no proof that her mother is behind any of these things. These things actually came out of their own home and or came out of the residence of the family home, her grandparents, whom her man was staying with at the time. And she's claiming that, baby, these audios came from surveillance and things that are in common areas of the home, not within the personal bedroom. Wow. In that audio, hold on, let me read this top part again to see what this other thing was. As captured on a home video security, which plaintiff asked herself, Ms. Perez, to install in the home. So that audio is, girl, this is a mess. So the video footage that we saw of the assault is at their home, at their personal gym, in which, according to Desiree, her daughter asked her personally to fucking install. And I mean, and we can clearly see why, right? I mean, it's interesting how even, I think this is so unfortunate. We all know, you know, well, I ain't gonna say we all know, but for those who know, you know, man, it is really sad that, you know, we literally are hearing and seeing proof of the abuse. Here it is, her mother is saying, look, baby, the footage is from your home. Footage that surveillance security system you asked me to personally install and to get installed at your home. And you're trying to protect him and come at your mother and make me look like a weirdo. That's crazy work. And rather than actually addressing the abuse and actually and let me tell you, now that I think about it, when we read Demoree's complaint, you know what was so interesting about her speaking about some of these events is that she called them alleged. She refused to say that these things did not happen, when she did have to specifically talk about some of these incidences because she had to talk about them in order to spin a narrative about her mother. Instead of her saying, you know, my mother completely lied, she couldn't say that. She had to say alleged. And she knew what she was doing by using that like middle language because, once again, there's already evidence out. There's evidence circulating. She knew the evidence existed at the time that she made these filings. She knew it was probably, that evidence was probably going to come out. I feel bad for Perez. In the audio, plaintiff tells Hadley, quote, please don't, and begin crying. He yelled, shut up, and then the sound of a slap is heard, followed by, quote, man, stop it, you fake ass crime. I feel like breaking this MFer. Hadley then says, quote, effing my mama, you know your mama thinks you're the dumbest mother effer, right? Okay, so she's quoting basically the audio. DH then replied, stop hurting or hitting me. Hadley responds, nobody's hurting or hitting you. Look me in my eye, I'm talking to you. Plaintiff's family, present for and horrified by Hadley's attack on plaintiff, had to intervene to physically protect plaintiff from Hadley. As he was hovering over her, plaintiff's family, not Ms. Perez, called the police, who wrote the following in their arrest affidavit. Oh, wow. And that's another thing. Did Demoree think about this? You're not just going up against your mother. You know that if this goes to trial, right, that your mother is going to be able to bring in the family members in question who homes y'all lived in, who bear witness to these things themselves. We can literally hear them in the audio. You know that they're going to be able to testify, you know, on behalf of your mother. Was this thought completely through, or like in most cases, was there just an expectation that, hey, you probably don't want to get flamed up publicly and don't want this bad publicity, just respond to the demand letter. We'll settle this thing out of court, keep this controversy under wrap. And then I told you, it's a lot of public figures are not laying down and taking it, bitch. They ain't taking the intimidation tactics. They're not taking the strong arming, baby. They are like, run me that. Run me that. Run me all of that. I need all of that. Right. You could hear the grandpa. Wife, this is my house. This is my house. This is my house. So Demoree didn't think this through. She didn't think it through. So this is an arrest affidavit regarding that incident. The victim and defendant are girlfriend and boyfriend who reside together as a family. On Monday, September 11th of 2023, the victim and the defendant were disputing inside their bedroom regarding their business. Witness Zaya, who was at the residence, heard the victim crying and telling, don't hit me, several times. Witness Zaya's, fearing for the victim's safety, went into the victim and defendant's bedroom. As soon as witness Zayas entered the bedroom, she observed the victim cowering in the corner while the defendant had his right hand raised and coming downward toward the victim. Witness Zayas immediately intervened by stepping in between the victim and the defendant's right hand in an attempt to shield the victim and prevent her from being struck by the defendant. It should be noted that witness Zayas advised when she entered the room that she observed the victim's left side of her face red as if the defendant had already slapped her a few times. Witness Zangeles, who was also on scene of the incident, corroborated witness Zaya's statement. Shortly after, the victim can be heard admitting to being a victim of a domestic battery for the incident, but not wanting the defendant to be in trouble. Let me tell you also what's interesting too. This affidavit accomplishes two things. To Demoree's point, this affidavit could actually be used to substantiate the fact that there had to be recording devices in her room, because the affidavit claims that the incident took place in her room, and that the DV dispute was going on in the bedroom. So that's fascinating. But once again, this is not Miss Perez's home, so the grandparents and whomever got to deal with that. You know, but that the affidavit does support that. And once again, here it is. The affidavit also supports the fact that the daughter is being abused and the daughter is single-handedly protecting her man. There was a dispute. She admitted to being a victim and hit and abused at the same time. Don't want to press no charges, etc. The defendant was arrested nonetheless and charged accordingly and transported to TKG. And once again, they could not they could not hold the charges because the victim, as you guys can see, was not cooperative and, you know, was doing what she had to do to keep her man out of hell. She didn't even want the nigga to go to his mama house. You know she don't want his ass in jail. She can't live without him. This is the backdrop to what the complaint calls Javon's second fraudulent arrest, where charges weren't pursued because plaintiff would not agree to testify against her attacker, which the memo does say that, which the journalist over in NBC News also reiterated that, etc. And weeks after the September 11, 2023 attack on October 14th of 2023, plaintiff and Ms. Perez shared the following exchange in which plaintiff threatened, quote, "I'd rather die than be separated from her abusive boyfriend." All right. We read these text messages in the first live. We're going to read them again. This is Demoree in gray and her mother, Desiree in the blue. For my mental health and trauma and PTSD, this is not good for me. He's talking about living with his mom until we move back. I will not allow that. Please, I need you to understand and help. Wow. She's deciding he ain't going no motherfucking well. Perez says mental health and trauma, baby. Yes, because if I did nothing wrong, then we should be united, not separated. Please talk to him. I don't want to be apart, period. It's not right. Perez responds, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not right. So then no space for me should be needed. Please tell him no space. Then the text message is clipped. And then right here, you can see at the bottom of Perez's message, it says, you brought up the visit and I said no. And then Demoree spirals. She says, no, you never said this. And I swear on my life, I'll never forgive that if you do that. And it's evil. I will stop my whole life if you do that. I draw the line there. You would make me so angry and unhappy. I'd rather die. What kind of mom would do that is so wrong. So I'm going to assume that there's a situation that Demoree is in. Looks like obviously she doesn't have a lot of autonomy in this situation. She's either living with her mother or maybe even living with the grandparents. And Perez has, asserted that she does not believe that a visitation or cohabitation or whatever it is under the circumstances that are happening in that moment are okay, and doesn't believe that it's in the best interest of them, of her daughter. And her daughter is like, having a typical privileged white kid, response, you don't own me, you don't own my body, You know, I would take my life if you keep me from him, Mom. You know, baby, let me tell you something, baby. Girl, I wish we would have drove our parents crazy like this as black kids, baby. The way the hyper intelligence and the hyper manipulation of non-melanated people are so funny to me, even at a young age. How they know how to hold their parents and guardians hostage with this threat of self-deletion and shit. I'm like, where did y'all even get that shit? As black kids, I didn't even know what the hell self-deletion was, yet alone knew that it could hold some type of power over my parents. I didn't even know to use something like this. You know, it's crazy to me. Right. That's why her ass got admitted. Child, this is crazy work, y'all. No, you never said this. And I swear on my life, I'll never forgive that if you do that. And it's evil. I will stop my whole life if you do that. I draw the line there. You would make me so angry and unhappy. I'd rather die. What kind of mom would do that? It's so wrong. Remember what I told you earlier? When people are stuck in their bullshit and their low vibrationalness, and they're stuck in, you know, their Stockholm syndrome, and they're stuck in their obsessions, they're not rational. And no matter how rational and logical you are and how loving you're in fact being by attempting to get them help, you have no choice when you're doing that but to be the villain. They're going to see everything you're doing, all your intervention, all your protectiveness. You're the bad guy, you're the bad guy, you're the bad guy, you're the bad guy. They only need you to participate in their obsession and participate in their impulsions. Not doing that makes you the bad guy. Okay? Desiree responds and says, Demoree, I'm afraid of what he's going to do to you. I'm concerned for your safety. Let's discuss this not over text. Maury, I am concerned for you. I didn't say anything. Why don't you call me? I'm scared that something bad is going to happen to you. Now, mind you, at this point, police have been called multiple times. Police reports, DV, the family don't witness all the surveillance, audios, all this shit plays out both privately and in front of the family. And Miss Stockholm Syndrome says, I'll call you in a few. Nothing is going to happen to me. Nothing's going to happen to me. Let's turn back the hands of time. Nothing's going to happen to her, though. Nothing's going to happen to her. For somebody who is trying to convince her mother that her abusive boyfriend is, you know, a safe space, why is she running? Why does she even have an object in her hand? And you know what? Because the daughter is so manipulative and so like gone psychologically, I'm actually very open to hearing from Javon's side of the story as well. Now, I can imagine, while I'm sure he has a story to tell, because he seemingly is just as toxic as she is. Once again, you know, remember when we were talking about like the DV rates between men and women and how men and women both perpetuate DV equally? They're pretty much lined up at a 50-50 rate. It's just that women statistically master in emotional and mental abuse, while men particularly master in physical abuse. But both sexes perpetuate harm against one another. So I'm pretty sure because this relationship, obviously he's toxic, Demoree's toxic, there's been times where he's been victimized, and then there's the times where he's being the victim. I can't imagine in this moment what she could have done that he would think justifies intentionally going into a space that he doesn't have to go into and intentionally putting his hands on someone, and he's not in a self-defense scenario to do so. So whatever is happening here in this footage is completely toxic, and he is the aggressor in the situation. She's not running after him. She's not seemingly coming into his space. He is the one entering into the space. He is the one lifting his hands to hurt her. He's the aggressor. I'm also sure that if he were to speak out in some way, and he would actually be transparent, that he probably has experienced DV emotionally and mentally. Because if this is what this girl is doing to her mom and her family, she's willing to throw her whole family under the bus, which people do. People do for their abusers. People would do for their toxic ass shit, baby. They'll go to the moon and back, girl. They would die on that motherfucking hill and their toxic bullshit. People would throw their kids away. The way that we have seen people just dispose of the quality of their life, their friendship group, their family group, just to hold on to a raggedy motherfucker. If this is what she would do to her mother and her family, oh my God, I know she's also equally toxic in a relationship. She may not be toxic physically, but clearly this is a manipulative bitch. And those text messages prove how manipulative she is. Matter of fact, this is where the emotional abuse comes into play at, right? The psychological abuse from her standpoint comes from, because here it is. She acknowledges in these texts, because I did nothing wrong, we should be united, not separated. Please talk to him. I don't want to be apart, period. You know, there should be no space from me. That should be needed. Please tell him no space. You know, he's talking about living with his mom. So here it is. The man that's abusing her, the man that she's in this toxic entanglement with, is wanting to leave the damn relationship, is wanting to separate. He's wanting to do what's in the best interest for his own damn mental health, which is try to exercise some liberty and some autonomy and independency and stability outside of this fucked up ass relationship. And here it is. She's getting slammed all up inside the motherfucking head, and she's trying to get the mother that she's suing and alleging is so manipulative to employ all of her Ursula powers to help her to control her man and to keep his ass with her. And she is absolutely insisting that his ass stay, help me to keep him. He ain't going no motherfucking where. He ain't going to his motherfucking mama house. And you need to help me stage a personal and physical intervention. And if you try to do anything that keeps me from this toxic motherfucker, I'm going to unalive myself. This shit is wild. This is some wild shit. Wow, peace. Wow, yay, peace. Wow, 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 wow. I'm scared that something bad is going to happen to you. I'll call you in a few. Nothing is going to happen to me. What I need is for you to tell Javon not to leave his mom's. Either come with me to a hotel or an Airbnb if he's not comfortable with Olga, who is her grandmother, but not his mom's, because that means we're over. And I'm not okay with that. Perez responds more. I'm so concerned for you and Nina when she tries to defend you. Why does it have to be over if he goes there? Why? Okay, she's asking her daughter, why the fuck, you know, why would you be willing to unalive yourself? Why would it be over? Because he needs to go get himself together. If anything, that's going to help him to grow up and be a better person and to have some tough conversations with his goddamn self and maybe come back and be a better man to you. She responds, if you continue to think I'm being abused, despite the footage, despite police intervention, despite police reports, affidavits, audio, despite the fact that other people bear witness to this, she's going to call what her mother is acknowledging as a belief. So this goes to show you how delusional Demoree is. At this point, there's been police intervention. There's police witnessing. There's other eyewitnesses. There's Demoree's own admission to the police that she was the victim. But here it is, she's going to call what her mother knows to be true as a belief. That's my point, Midnight. She was wanting her mama to use those same corrupted powers that she's alleging. Baby, Demoree is a dangerous baby. We're seeing a baby. They need to enact something called the Karen Act, baby. This is Karening. My God. This is incredible Karening, girl. She done sue. I mean, she done alley-oop the public sympathy, and she is the one. And what all the people right now who are so busy making this about Roc Nation and JayZ, who ain't got shit to do with this. JayZ ain't got a damn thing to do with this, girl. He ain't even listed in the lawsuit aside from her, saying that her mom works for, his company or whatever. People are so blinded by that they have no idea how they're being alley-ooped and how they're actually helping a woman who's a true victim of domestic violence to be further disillusioned, because now she gets to go out and see the algorithm and feel vindicated and feel like she's living like her delusion has not been made reality, because she's been able to get hundreds of thousands of other people on social media to participate in her disillusion. My God, no wonder Perez them around here shutting goddamn channels down and shit. I don't even blame it. I'll blame them, girl. Wow. This is incredible, y'all. Wow. While these text messages and the beatings caught on audio and video tell the real story, and while efforts were made to seek medical help for plaintiff, what is entirely irrelevant to anything in this proceeding are the allegations in paragraph 23, 38 through 61, 90, 140, 217, 2022, 2023, and 2043 through 2024. Those allegations strictly meant to assassinate Ms. Perez's character, label her a bad mom, a drug user, a confidential informant, discussing arrest from 30 years ago, and choosing a life of crime over motherhood, most of which is alleged to have occurred before plaintiff was even born, are entirely immaterial and scandalous and have absolutely no relevance to plaintiff's cause of action. The references to old convictions for which Ms. Perez received a full and unqualified presidential. Okay, so she is a heir to a presidential pardon. Okay. In 2021, not only factually inaccurate, but are asserted for no discernible basis other than to harass and defame Ms. Perez. In addition, counsel for plaintiff exaggerates the number of offenses with which Ms. Perez was charged, fails to acknowledge that many charges were dismissed, and purposefully mischaracterizes certain dates, all to paint a false picture of Ms. Perez. The inclusion of this information is nothing short of a transparent attempt to assassinate Ms. Perez's character. Finally, aside from the arrest over 30 years ago, the other allegations are bold-faced lies, and plaintiff knows it. Pursuant to Rule F, they must be stricken. I wish my fellow commentators, when they covered stories, that they at least also read the rebuttal. I think that that's integral, and I think it's necessary. I don't think it's fair to just read an initial lawsuit without also reading the rebuttal. Even if you read the rebuttal and still decide to stand with whomever the plaintiff is or what they're alleging, because this rebuttal is explosive. The rebuttal is, hell, kind of honestly more explosive than the damn initial complaint by the goddamn plaintiff, because the mom is eating Demoree off the bone. Eating her off the bone, girl, and while she thought it was a gag to try to criminalize her mother by bringing up past convictions, yeah, she's right. What she didn't tell y'all was that I was pardoned, that charges were actually dropped as well, and that, yeah, I'm allowed to have a rag to riches story like all the other goddamn hip-hop artists that I'm the CEO over at Roc Nation. Isn't JayZ himself a rags to riches story? And it about how I started, baby. It's clearly about how the fuck I'm finishing. Now ask my daughter, what the hell has she accomplished in the last 30 years of her life? Because what she's about to accomplish, baby, is getting this countersuit. And if she didn't think she had trauma from her nigga, she about to have trauma from her goddamn mammy. Baby, Perez is on your neck. Perez is on your neck, Demoree. Baby, you might have miscalculated this thing by hundreds of miles out, baby. I'm not even sure if this asteroid is even going to touch the Earth's atmosphere, girl. Okay, you might have missed the Earth entirely, Miss Mama. All right, so this is the legal standard, which we don't have to read all of that technicality. Here's the analyst, though. Ms. Perez arrests in the 1990s have no relevance to this proceeding. Paragraph alleges that Ms. Perez is a former drug trafficker, confidential informant, convicted felon who is now CEO of Roc Nation in New York. Paragraph 5 alleges that Ms. Perez showed the life of crime over motherhood. Questions her ownership of 4040 Club in New York. Oh, baby, I think she's lining this thing up for a nasty countersuit, girl. Baby, I don't know how compassionate, Desiree is at this point, considering that her daughter is literally trying to tear down her own family. She's trying to tear down her directly, trying to tear down, what she's created for herself, which benefits her daughters, because even according to her daughter's complaint, her mother has been able to get her jobs, etc., even though she believes that her mom is setting her up and these people really working for her mom and this, that, blah, 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 blah. The daughter trying to throw a grenade behind the baby, trying to burn the house down, trying to burn the village down on the way out. And it looked like the way this thing is worded, baby, not only is Perez asking for this slander and this irrelevant information to be stricken, but she's also asking, she's also seen to be lining her ass up for a countersuit for defamation. I would not be surprised if there's a countersuit. The earliest allegation, however, of wrongdoing by Ms. Perez in the complaint is that she planted a camera in the Hadley's bedroom on July 18th, an absolute falsehood that, even if true, would have occurred 24 years after the 1998 arrest. The pages devoted to her arrest bear absolutely no relationship to the allegations of the complaint, which allegedly occurred in 2022 of 2024. All of the allegations after these arrests in the 1990s transparently are detailed to publicly embarrass Ms. Perez. Their inclusion is simply for shock value and must be stricken. Okay, she addresses the confidential informant claims. Plaintiff's allegations intentionally ignore the difference between cooperating with the authorities and taking responsibility for one's own conduct, which is what Ms. Perez did, as opposed to formally entering into an agreement to act as a confidential informant, which Perez did not. Okay, she's also saying bullshit, bears no evidence, and neither was any presented. Okay. Ms. Perez never served as a confidential informant, and the repeated suggestion she did is simply immaterial and meant to gain public notoriety against her. The allegations are a perfect example of the immaterial lies. Oh, baby, she's suing. Baby, Perez is suing to the ground, girl. Perez is going to sue, baby. Baby, Demoree, baby, you better get Busby on the line, baby. It's going to be a long... It's a long summer. It's going to be a longer winter, baby. It's going to be a longer winter, baby. Reading the rebuttal is necessary. That's why I love this channel. CTV is fair and balanced. Thank you, babies. My God, wow. The allegations are a perfect example of the immaterialized plaintiff offers undoubtedly at the behest of Hadley to embarrass Ms. Perez and get a payday from her. Hadley has been arrested for beating his girlfriend and refusing to stay away from her when ordered to do so by a court. 2 of these beatings are caught on camera. Plaintiff admitted on the September 11, 2023, that Hadley had battered her. Quote, shortly after the victim can be heard admitting to being the victim. Okay, and this is what police said in their affidavit of a domestic battery for this incident, but not one the defendant to be in trouble. There you go. Unfortunately, and all too common in domestic abuse cases, she changed her story on April 26, 2024, which is why prosecutors did not proceed with charges. Yet an audio recording exists from the arrest on September 11th, 2023, conspicuously, I probably fucked that word up, omitted from the complaint, in which plaintiff admitted to a friend that Hadley grabbed her by the throat and that she lied to the police when questioned about the incident. Wow. Okay, so Hadley is presenting redacted information, etc. Girl, let me tell you, baby, if they go to trial with this thing, it's gonna be nasty work. The fact that criminal charges were not pursued does not make these arrests fraudulent. Correct. Further, the allegation that Ms. Perez falsely reported to 911 that Javon kidnapped Demoree is a lie and debunked by the police report itself. See the police report, Exhibit 2. Okay, they got all the. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, they got the exhibit, Shy. Let's see here. Plaintiff is a lie. Plaintiff does not include the portion of the police report that states an anonymous caller reported Hadley to the police and that anonymous person was not Ms. Perez. Importantly, Hadley's lawful arrests have no relationship to the causes of action that allege a wrongful Baker Act and Marchman Act on plaintiff. Allegations which are refuted and will be proved to be completely false. Plaintiff false misrepresentations that the components of a dancing toy flower available from Amazon for $7 are a listening device constitute a deliberate attempt to mislead the court and must be stricken. Wow. She includes a photograph of a purported listening device that she claims Ms. Perez planted inside plaintiff's bedroom and kept there for years. However, the components plaintiff and her counsel will attempt to pass off as a listening device are nothing more than a capacitor and a miniature solar panel contained inside of a cheap solar-powered dancing flower toy. Wow. Wow, my God. Y'all. Bitch. That's what she was holding in her goddamn hand in her exhibit as a recording. Girl. I am screaming. Right, homebody? It's like every week is trauma. I told y'all we all gonna need free health care by the end of the age of Aquarius, girl. I mean, we're gonna be long gone by the time the age comes to an end. But baby, we need free medical care right now because, baby, it's weekly and it's daily at this damn point. Wow. One example of such a dancing flower is set forth in Exhibit 4 here too, with an embedded video link demonstrating the extraction of the components from the dancing flower that plaintiff and her counsel perjuriously presented to this court as a covert listen. Oh, wow. So the bitch is dumb enough to try to alley-oop the courts, girl, and present falsified technology and everything. Did she not think her mama, oh, you know what happened? When people send demand letters, usually, there's weeks of back and forth and waiting for the defendants to respond. Typically, by the time a demand letter is written up, the lawsuit has already been written up. Because she's so quick to make good on her word and her threat to, baby, I'll take this shit to the public if you don't settle with me out of court. They greenlit the damn lawsuit after the mom refused to settle out of court, and they didn't really think this stuff through. Like, I don't understand how either Demoree's lawyer is also in cahoots with Demoree, but just as dumb, or the lawyer just didn't do their due diligence. How did Demoree's attorneys not question Demoree? Like, okay, you want to present these images and these things as exhibits. I need to personally verify these things as being listening devices, having recording capability, etc. Because if your mom fuck around, bitch, and challenge any of this shit, That's both of our asses, okay? And I'm not in the legal game to be taking no L's, baby, okay? That don't look good for my Yep reviews, okay? So I don't understand how attorneys just be taking shit. I don't understand. Like, I would be well vetted as an attorney, girl. Like, anything you want to present as evidence, anything you want to present as this, that, and the third, I want to have to personally verify. I'm going to have to personally see if we can record on this shit. I'm going to have to personally see this shit you're talking about, girl. I'm going to have to go personally pull affidavits. I'm not letting you hand me edited as shit and edited as this, that, and the third. I'm going to have to personally scorch through these things. You know, but I guess for a lot of attorneys, right, it don't matter whether you win or lose if your incentive is money, because if your incentive is money, you're going to get paid, right? Whether you win or lose, because a person had to retain you regardless of whether the case is going to prevail or not. You're not going to get a, well, you know, well, I was going to say you're not going to get a bigger pay, but you actually are if you win. So your incentive should always be to win. But I guess some lawyers just like, well, I probably could come out with a bigger percentage if my client, you know, comes out, you know, with punitive damages and pain and suffering, you know, like, you know, we get to renegotiate. But hell, even if I don't, I got paid all the way up to this point. I get paid whether you win or lose. You're going to owe me regardless for my services. But I'm sorry, as an attorney, bitch, I would want to be the Johnny Cochran of this shit. As an attorney, bitch, it ain't enough to just get paid, bitch. I want to be right. I want to be on the right side of history. I want to be on the right side of truth. And I just could not be doing shit just purely for the sake of money, baby. My name is important to me. My competency is, my legacy, you know, gonna have to be sickening. While the component parts are clearly from a dancing flower, extracting these component parts requires the use of tools and force to disassemble it. These facts make it impossible for plaintiff to assert that the components were discovered. Wow, so she's making the case that, that her daughter would have had to intentionally go and break up shit and undo shit and unscrew shit and this, that, and the third, and then allow her paranoia to draw her to the conclusion that, oh, this is a listening device when it's nothing more than a battery, or it's nothing more than the energy source for the said device. It's nothing more than the transmission of the toy. Girl, my God, today. Rather, it is clear that these items were forcibly removed from a toy for the purpose of perjuriously mischaracterizing them as a listening device that had been planted by Ms. Perez. These willful perjurious allegations are sadly emblematic of plaintiff's efforts to mislead throughout the verified complaint, and Ms. Perez respectfully submits that they must not be countenanced by the court. In sum, the photograph of and allegations related to the components of the dancing flower have no relevance to any claim and are intended only to tarnish Ms. Perez's character. Thus, the allegations in paragraph 65 through 66 must be struck. God, the day. Allegations of a separate lawsuit about a car have no relevance to this matter. In a final attempt to disparage Ms. Perez, plaintiff discusses a frivolous lawsuit filed by Ms. Perez against plaintiff related to the Mercedes that Ms. Perez had brought for plaintiff. The lawsuit was initiated because plaintiff wanted to sell the Mercedes and share the proceeds with Hadley. In paragraph 245 of the complaint, plaintiff alleges that Ms. Perez falsely claimed to be the lawful owner of the car and that the title to the car has always been in Demoree's name. Sadly, it is plaintiff who falsely claims title to the car has always, quote, been in her name, as a review of records from the Florida DMV reveals that the car was originally purchased and titled in Ms. Perez's name in February 20 of 2021 and later retitled in plaintiff's name on April 6 of 2021. The complaint also gratuitously adds a brief reading of the lawsuit, shows how low Ms. Perez will stoop to get what she wants, quote, and adds, quote, even an upset multimillionaire suing her own daughter over a car is rare. The lawsuit, which was filed because plaintiff was trying to sell the Mercedes instead of using it, has no relationship to plaintiff's claims of an alleged false Baker Act or Marchman Act, arrest, or any other claim. It is a blatant misrepresentation of the fact. So the mom is, you know, saying, look, a lot of this shit is secondary. She's just like literally just throwing all type of shit up against the wall, even if it's shit that's true. Because it sounds like there's some truth to the car situation. But ultimately, legally, it's irrelevant. If I didn't want her to sell the fucking car, whatever the case may be, whatever, whatever, it don't got nothing to do with this bitch alleging that I RICO'd and am a racketeering, okay, that I'm in a conspiratorial cabal with police and with psychiatrists and counselors and blah, 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 that I planted this, that, and the third. Conclusion: for the above reasons, the allegations all throughout heading must be stricken to rule pursuant. My God, y'all. Exhibit 1. This is the complaint and arrest affidavit against Javon, the husband. As you guys can see here, the affidavit chronicles the incident. It states that the defendant had his right hand coming down toward the victim. Witnesses immediately, and Demoree herself admitted to said situation. Yep, here it is. Shortly after the victim can be heard admitting to being the victim of a domestic battery for the incident, but not wanting the defendant to be in trouble. Wow, you guys. This is fucking crazy. This is why people need to always read the rebuttal and the defense, girl, because the evidence will tell you otherwise. Okay. Offense incident, Miami-Dade County. This is another one against Javon. This is the narrative. On December, I was dispatched in emergency mode to the Pinto farm located at said address in reference to a female being forced into a Dodge Charger with a Florida tag, called in by an anonymous complaint. Okay, so this goes to Perez. State that my daughter is making false allegations that I called and reported that she was being kidnapped when this call came from an anonymous caller. Okay, now she can believe I was the anonymous caller, but factually, I'm not the anonymous caller. Factually, there's no proof that I called in. This was an anonymous complaint. Okay. Upon arrival, the vehicle was located unoccupied in the parking lot of the Pinto farm. Units were then approached by a male who identified himself as Jeff Brown, a private investigator. He stated that the male that exited the vehicle is wanted in a domestic crimes case. A records check revealed that the arrest had a PC2 arrest message from the MDPD Special Victims Unit. He was detained without further incident. Mr. Hadley was transported to a station where he was interviewed by detectives. Mr. Hadley was subsequently transported to TKG pending charges, etc. Here's that toy, the pink solar-powered dancing, swinging flower car ornament. It is not a recording device. And this is what she broke apart and submitted to, wow. This is not a recording device, baby. It is some type of energy or battery pack out of this toy here, which is a swinging flower ornament. Baby, girl, this is too much. And they actually also have a sworn declaration of Eric Whedon, who presented the declaration. He is a senior director of cyber and data resilience at Crawl, and prior to joining Crawl, served as a senior consultant of digital forensics and incident response at the security company Ponderance. he goes on to say, I have personally installed numerous covert audio video devices for high-level confidential investigations. In total, I possess over 20 years of technical law enforcement experience specializing in technical security. I am intimately familiar with the technical surveillance countermeasures, which are measures used to detect and remove hidden bugs, rogue Wi-Fi access points, and eavesdropping devices. I also possess unique experience and expertise in complex technical security matters encompassing full spectrum TSCM, technical threat management, video evidence investigations, and security design and consulting. I was trained at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in the Covert Electronic Surveillance Program, where I was taught to manufacture case-specific audio and video surveillance equipment that was deployed in the field to collect covert audio and video evidence. This class focused on non-wired devices that were powered by alternative means and or transported over the signal to a remote recording device wirelessly. Okay, let's get to the meat here. Studied, designed, assembled, detected, and disassembled innumerable commercially manufactured and improvised homemade covert recording and transmitting devices. I have seen and analyzed photographs set forth in paragraph 65 of the complaint in the above reference. The complaint described the item in the photograph as a listening device. See below. Okay, that's what Demoree presented in her lawsuit. The item depicted in the photograph in paragraph 65 has none of the components of a listening device. Indeed, the device depicted in the photograph appears to be made up of 3 component parts. The black cylindrical item is a capacitor labeled as such, which is a device that stores electrical energy by accumulating electric charges on 2 closely spaced surfaces that are insulated from each other. The gold rectangular item is a solar panel, which is a panel designed to absorb the sun rays as a source of energy for generating electricity or heating. The smaller rectangular brown item is unidentifiable in a photograph. However, I have learned through identification of the item from which these components was extracted that the third item is a rudimentary printed circuit board. Notably, neither a solar panel of that size nor a capacitor of the size alone are components of the audio video surveillance device. Moreover, a printed circuit board could not, standing alone or with these other components, function as an audio surveillance device. I viewed a video and still images taken on May 25th, Dropbox here, of an individual taking apart a solar-powered dancing, flapping, swinging flower and laying out the component parts. I also had occasion to review an online design for a DIY manufacturing assignment given by a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So, do you guys realize that this is something that her own lawyer could have did? Had her own lawyer did the same thing, did the same work, did the same assessment. What? Look, let me tell you something. This forensic specialist is so fucking intelligent and concise that they didn't even know what she put this shit out of. I'm wondering how the fuck did the forensic specialist even look at this and even know where it came out of, what it came out of, and then connect that to an object that was in the motherfucking room. Oh, unless that information came from Perez, maybe there's been discussions behind the paywall, like amongst the family of her, of like when the daughter had lived there, you know, she broke open this thing and she was running around claiming, oh, this is a listening device, da, 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 da. And come to find out, all it took was for this forensic specialist to come on and be like, yeah, this is not a recording device. This is a solar panel energy system, use the power of the object up, blah, blah, blah. This is not what an object of this kind would look like if it was a covert listening auditory device, blah, blah, blah. I am just fucking screaming. And the fact that the attorney didn't do any of that work. And all it took this man was to go on YouTube and literally type in this object being disassembled. And kaboop, there you are. For the reasons set forth below and based upon my review of the components of the dancing flower included above are compared to the photograph of the purported listening device depicted in paragraph 65 of the complaint, it is my professional opinion that the item described as a listening device of the complaint is not a listening device, but the internal components of a dancing flower, which are documented below, is commonly available through Amazon and other retail motherfucking stores, bitch. I'm cooked. I'm cooked. Wow, here's the listening device, y'all. Girl, y'all, I can't even read the guy. We'll have to come back with a part 3 and get into Miss Perez's lawsuit against the husband, girl. I didn't even know we was here for almost 3 hours. Bitch, I am done. Do y'all see what I'm seeing? This is the listening device. This is what she took a picture of. A universal solar panel that's in all of these dancing flower devices. She presented as a... You know what's so sad? What's sadder than this? What's sadder than the daughter's lawsuit? What's sadder than the daughter's lies? What's sadder than the way that Demoree is playing in our faces is the fact that every other content creator is going to run at face value with the initial complaint and take no journalistic integrity to read the rebuttal, to even see the facts that are debunking the bullshit in the complaint, and I just want to run with the narrative. And everybody on social media is going to be, see, we told y'all about Roc Nation. See, yeah, if they would do this, if she would do this to her own daughter, you know she would do it to Tory Lanez. Imagine what has been done to Tory Lanez. Girl, I am done, y'all. I am cooked. I am booked. How in the hell did Demoree's attorneys not do this work themselves? It was literally a Google search. But I'm saddened. Look, this is his own picture of the listening device. You see how easy that was? Imagine thinking that you ate, girl, and then you get eaten alive by the defendant's y'all. Picture from the complaint. This is, and it look like, and I guess this is the actual hand of her husband, because this don't look like a woman's hands. And here is the hands of the forensic specialist, or either, no, this is the hand of, I guess, the YouTuber girl who pulled this shit apart, girl. I can't deal. I like, y'all, this era got me shook. Like, just when you think, girl, no, we have seen it all. It can't get no more cuckoo. It can't get crazier. It can't get more. And like, shit just gets more unhinged and crazy. Just when you think you've capped at crazy, like there can't be that much crazy in one musician's hat, and then kaboom, something happens, and you realize, girl, there's a whole multiverse of madness that exists. This is embarrassing. I am ashamed for the attorney. I'm ashamed for Demoree. A side-by-side comparison, the literal same fucking object that is in all of those toys. Y'all. Demoree better run, bitch. She gonna have to run, girl. She's going to have to motherfucking run. She gonna have to run. She's going to have to run. Your mother is going to eat you alive, and she should, bitch. She should. She should. She should. I hope your mother eats you alive. Alive. Wow. This woman done got her life together, cleaned her life up, became a multi-millionaire after getting caught up in some shit, was graced enough to get pardoned, and did what you're supposed to do with your second chance at life, which is go legitimately get your life together, legitimately make your coin, and went and did that. And then had a daughter who done got dickmatized on the BBC and now has weaponized all of the efforts made from her mother. And what's interesting is that this is a money grab, right? Because multiple family members have tried to aid and abet in helping Demoree, from giving her housing to the whole nine, even supporting her relationship at times. But she's only suing the big wig in the situation. And then weaponizing all the things that were done to help her. And all these things so far, especially based upon the rebuttal, were actually legal. And yes, Demoree gets to not like the fact that she was put in a 72 chokehold. But her mother had a right to get her evaluated based upon said concerns and things going on. Demoree gets to not like the fact that after her mom had initiated the Baker and Marshman Act, that the other components, whether it was police or the psychiatrist, made their own independent assessments. They ain't got nothing to do with Perez. But the good thing about it is Demoree is taking some of those people to task. So that doctor who signed off on having her moved to a drug treatment facility, allegedly, girl, based upon, whatever, despite the evidence, are going to have to deal with that. But here's the thing now. Since all of those people have gotten summons, since all those people have been caught to the carpet, I'm now interested in hearing from everybody. Because now we know that we can't take Demoree's word alone. She's not telling the truth. She's playing fucking games. She is even trying to play games with social media by calling the audio and video evidence deep fake AI, when in fact she has acknowledged that these incidents did occur, but that they were illegally obtained through secret recording devices that never even fucking existed. She's lied, even to, the police are in affidavits on a record, admitting that she admitted, to being the victim, etc. Multiple eyewitnesses have corroborated these things. So now I'm gonna have to keep an open mind with everybody. I'm gonna have to keep an open mind when the doctor, Bobber, and the other doctor comes into play. I'm interested in hearing from everybody's standpoint, because there may have been some other cooperative components that dropped the ball, potentially. So there may be some foul play with other people, but baby, the mom done cleared her. Baby, she done cleared her, baby. She's looking to exit the group chat. Matter of fact, let me see something real quick. Where's the case? And we're going to come back and do a part 3, y'all, of Desiree Perez's lawsuit against the husband from last year. We're going to do it in a part 2. I don't want to make this this live super fucking long. And my views are being suppressed. I don't know what that's about. People not getting notified. I don't know what that's about. So make sure that you guys are please thumbing up. I don't know what's going on. let me see where the case is right now, because she amended her complaint. So this is her amended complaint. I mean, not her amended complaint. This is her amended motion to dismiss the lawsuit. Let me see what's about to happen next. Let me see on the docket. Amended complaint. The amended motion to dismiss complaint was put in on the 27th of last month. So we have a bunch of attorneys who are entering the group chat. We are supposed to have a response for the motion to dismiss complaint by the 10th. Okay, so we'll be seeing seeing movement any day now. The judge is going to let Demoree respond to her mother's motion to dismiss. That should be interesting. So that's what we got up next on that. And we're going to come back in a part 3, possibly tonight. If not, definitely first thing in the morning, probably like around maybe 9:30, 10-ish, to get into part 3, which is Desiree Perez lawsuit against Javon. You know, this woman has went out of her way and done everything she could to protect her daughter, even though her daughter is dumb enough to remain. You know, she's sick. She's not mentally well. Let me not call her dumb. She's mentally not well. She's poeticizing and romanticizing, you know, a toxic relationship that she more than likely is also equally toxic in. But she's clearly the victim of physical DV, mental and emotional DV. And there's been police involvement and scathing footage and audio, etc., to corroborate that. And her mother, knowing that her daughter is, you know, not well mentally and suffering from low self-esteem and obsession and enmeshment and every damn thing else, has, you know, tried to do everything under the sun, including, you know, personally sue the man, etc. So I really can't be mad at Desiree for just doing everything she can. She is utilizing everything she can to help her daughter. And, you know, someday her daughter is probably going to wake up and appreciate her mother's love at a time where she was literally on the wrong side of life. So, baby, if y'all enjoyed yourself, y'all already know what to do. Please run those likes up. We need all of that. Something's going on with YouTube and notifications and algorithms. So please run me a like. If you guys are enjoying all the readings, all the unpacking, if you enjoy the integrity, if you enjoy the unbiased, if you enjoy, you know, us making a solid attempt all the time to see the truth, to get to the motherfucking truth and not being afraid of that, no matter if it's unpopular, etc., you guys can show some love to the Cash App $Consciouztv and or paypal.me/Consciouztv. Conscious spelled just how it is here on the platform. So shout out to my PayPalers and my Cash Appers. Subscribe if you're new here. You guys, please share. Get the word out. Share me everywhere. Tell a friend of a friend of a friend. Share me out to your social medias. Keep your notifications set. And remember, even when you don't get notified by YouTube, check the channel manually because YouTube notifications are not reliable. I love you guys long time. We will be live in color in part 3. So I will see you guys then. And if you forgot to catch part 1, you guys, please do so. Catch part 1. That was our initial coverage of the case, child. And yeah, child, this is crazy, y'all. Like, this is how do y'all feel? Karen, how do you feel? Amanda, how do you feel? Todd, how do you feel? Homebody, how do you feel? Sharita, how do you feel? Like, I don't understand. This shit is crazy to me. Like, how do y'all feel? I am completely taken aback right now. I am taken aback. My brain feels like mush. Like, what the? Everything is so crazy. It's like we're living under a permanent full moon. The world is crazy right now. I don't understand. Trump trying to pardon Tory while claiming he trying to no, not Trump trying to thinking about pardoning Diddy, pardoning all these insurrectioners and all of his criminal friends, but claiming he's sending people back to their native countries because he's trying to clean the streets up for criminality. Girl, the world is literally crazy. Gosh, God, thank you for a sound mind. Thank you for being truth-centered. Thank you for, making us rational and reasonable. Thank you, Lord, for just our desire for truth alone. Even if sometimes, it's hard to really know what the hell the truth is. But thank you for just at least, orienting us toward truth. Like, because the world is really playing games right now. The world is playing hella games. People playing hella games. People playing hella games. Sharita says, I'm confused. I thought mama was tripping. Then I catch to the end and find out mama was just being mama. And they're clocking it. The daughter is girl on her own and shit. She's a woman who is severely male identified and stigmatized, and she's allowing, a toxic spouse to isolate her from her family, to get, to damage her life and damage, her relationship to her family. And right now she's willing to be sold out for the dick. So sad. And the mom has really done anything illegal. Her defense is so sound. And she reminded us, ain't been no proof of nothing. Like, conspiracy, where's proof of conspiracy? All these are independent parties. I don't have no control over how police choose to independently assess a situation. I don't have no factual authority to control what an independent doctor decides, etc. You're saying I'm in a conspiracy with all these people, but how could that be when all of my attempts failed? How could they have failed if I have all these systems in a chokehold? Your boyfriend would be successfully indicted and charged and serving time right now if I had the police in my back pocket. How can I have the police in my back pocket and they release an 11-page memo saying that you didn't cooperate and that they didn't press charges because of how you claimed the evidence I presented was collected, which was secretly and based upon invading your privacy. But if I had him in a chokehold, boo, all that would have went through. It would not have resulted in your dude walking free. If I had the damn doctors in a psych ward them in a chokehold, baby, your test results would not have came back clear to drugs. We would have falsified the document so that we could have successfully transferred you where we needed to transfer you and continue to keep your ass drugged up and medicated. If that was the case, how is it that I was in a conspiratorial cabal with these folk, baby, and you're free? And your ninja is free. Like that, girl, what? Are you listening to yourself? So you're just going to play into social media mythology about Roc Nation and lean on the court of public opinion and the court, and you're going to rely on these urban legends about how powerful Roc Nation is and all of this shit, when actually, if you're really daughter, if you're really looking at what you've presented here, you've actually proved how non-powerful Roc Nation is. If you're actually listening to what you're arguing in your complaint, if you're actually looking at what you're presenting, it proves how, in fact, powerless Roc Nation is. It actually dispels all of this mythology. Y'all, and the fact that 90% of social media is going to be in a fucking chokehold talking about, oh yeah, see, it proves, girl, see, we know it. Roc Nation control. Y'all, I ain't even gonna gaslight myself by looking at other commentators' commentary. I got to keep my sanity, baby. I'm not gonna let them folk gaslight me. Baby, I'm not gonna let these idiots on social media gaslight me, girl. I can't do it. And something kept telling me, something said, like Spirit literally kept telling me, y'all, read the mama's complaint. Read the mama's complaint. Read the mama's complaint. Because I was kind of thinking about not doing it. I'm like, you know, who cares? But Spirit kept egging me on, like, girl, read the mama's rebuttal. You got to read the mama's rebuttal. Like, don't just read the initial complaint by Demoree. Read the mother's, babe, I'm so glad I did. Wow. I could not be more grateful that I listened to Spirit, because Jesus has that changed everything at this point. Even though my attitude from the initial complaint was like, you know, I was still fairly neutral. Like, you know, I'll see. We'll see where things go, child. I'm so glad I read that complaint. I'm so glad I read the response, the rebuttal, the defense. Clout chasing like a motherfucker. Wow. Amanda says, I'm embarrassed for Desiree. Her daughter put all their family business out in the street, and it turns out the daughter is cuckoo. Oh, y'all, this shit is crazy. Wow, I gotta get out of here, y'all. This is nuts, y'all. I'll see y'all in the morning, child. Y'all have y'all a good Monday. Child, have y'all a good Monday. And if y'all end up in these comment sections or hitting the panels of other content creators, clock the T. Assert the truth, okay? Put the truth in the comment sections. Put the truth in the comments of the blogs. Don't let, you know, folk just spin these narrative. Use your voice to balance the conversations and you know, put some accountability on these content creators to be fair, to present, you know, all the arguments, present everybody's side, tell everybody's side, you know, because we need all that, child. I love y'all, and I will see y'all later. Goodbye.